Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome in Steffi. Welcome in Vampy. Hope you're both doing well. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to see you the other day, Vampy. I had D&D, so I was busy. So, I'm also live slightly later than I intended to, but I had a doctor's appointment, and you know what doctors do? They run late. Especially my doctor. She's a yapper. Love her to bits. She's like definitely worth the extra time, but yeah, sometimes I'm just like yapper. It's all good. Yeah. I've got my penguins. I've got a meat stick. I've got a stick of meat. Haven't had one of these yet. We'll see if I like it. I've had a busy 2 weeks. Mystery meat. It's elk. It's elk stick. We were only at the bar for like an hour or so. The other day was super sleepy for partner. Yeah. I mean, like, the suit fitting and stuff took forever. For context for chat, if there's anyone lurking that doesn't know what the frick we're talking about, slash for VOD watchers, Vampy and her partner are getting married soon, and I'm the officiant. So we all had to hang out on Saturday and do like suit fittings, for those of us who were doing suits. And it was really nice. First ever suit fitting, super speaking of the day, super gender affirming. And the guy doing my measurements and stuff was really great. Choco Eggy? Okay. But yeah, I had mentioned that I was transmasculine kind of near the start when we were talking to him, picking out the fabrics and stuff. And then he was I mentioned that I was transmasculine because I was I wanted him to know, obviously, I want a men's jacket, but fitted to me, and that's sort of where I was at. Because I'm he needs to know, because the tailoring is completely different. And I was so nervous that that was gonna be whatever, and then he was gonna give me a woman's jacket or something. Hi Kat, welcome in. But it was to the point where we were talking, we were picking the fabric, and then he gave me the they have iPads and stuff to put in my information and stuff. And he'd already put my pronouns in for me as he, him, and I'm aw. I was thinking of changing them back to they, them, because you could only pick one option. And I was nah, he, him's good. I like he, him. So that was that was really nice. I was really happy about that. So that was really affirming. Speaking of happy Trans Day of Visibility, everybody, your invisibility cloaks are not working today. I'm so sorry about that. They can see us, so beware. You're gonna be rolling with disadvantage on all of your stealth checks. But yeah, I've got my soft boy shirt. I'm it's boy but pink, at least as pink as I generally get. But yeah, I'm really excited to yap more about gender stuff today. Did you see what I DM'd you on Discord? If it was while I was on my way home, no, because I was on the subway, and then now I'm here. So if you just sent it, then no, because I'm not looking at Discord. Do I need to do that right now? My favorite day of visibility meme, yes. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. I want to share where the meat stick came from, because we haven't seen each other in almost 2 weeks, because all last week I was swamped with stuff. I was gonna stream. Okay. I was gonna stream on Wednesday. Yeah, Steph, I'll look at it when I'm done story time. But yeah, I wanted to stream on Wednesday, but I needed a break because I was super burnt out, because I had the suit fitting stuff on Saturday, plus I had work from Thursday to Sunday this week. And also last weekend, so not the one that just passed, but the one before that, I worked Saturday and Sunday, but then also had my parents visiting Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it was all day of stuff without being able to take my normal naps and things. I also DM'd you about stuff. Okay. Don't worry about, I didn't realize you're streaming. Just wanted because messages. Yes, gotcha. But yeah, we did a bunch of stuff with my parents. I think I dumped in the Discord a bunch of the stuff that we did. Let me see about like sharing some stuff on stream in a bit. But we went to this really terrible dinosaur exhibit out by the Downsview Airport. Like genuinely, it was very like it was bad in an entertaining way. So it was really fun, but it was so bad. Like going with Steph was really funny too, because she was like mentioning all of the stuff that was inaccurate. But also, I didn't necessarily need that, because there were some things that were so inaccurate I could tell. It was so bad. I think my favorite though was like the Stegosaurus that didn't have an eye, and it was so unhinged. Because Mom loved it when we went. Well, the one we went to was different than the ones that you went to. It was just a series of dinosaur animatronics in a room, basically. Yeah, it was so jankety. Like objectively bad. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And then we did a bunch of like fun food stuff. We went to the Lakeview, which was really, really fun. Did like a couple local small places. We also went to the Museum of Illusions, which was really fun.
A cat marionette just resubscribed. Trans rights equals P.
Trans rights equals P is so funny. Thank you for the 7 months. Oh my goodness. Trans rights is P. Yeah, I did not account for that. No. Equals P. Oh my god. Yeah, no, that's canon now. Trans rights are P. Now instead of saying trans rights, I'm just gonna look at trans people and just go P. I'm laughing so hard I can't type. Yeah, I do see speaking of, you spelled not N-O trans rights T, which is like so based and woke of you. Equals P. Fuck. You know what I might do? Actually, I'm gonna write this down. I'm not at PC and can't clip it. Fuck. Yeah, Steph, if you could clip that, that would be great. Cause like, I wanna use that as an alert. I don't know what for. I might have it as just like a bit alert or something. Or like, yeah, I might just have it as like a bit alert. That's a new yellow pride flag now? Oh my god. It also might just be a thing that I need to be able to push. How does this keep happening? I mean, TTS is jank. That's part of it. What is my life? Even if someone doesn't clip it now, I can go back through and do it. I'm just gonna like put it as a thing in my stream notes to just be like, clip trans rights equals P. Anytime I do a PRB, I might have that as just a button I can push. Too far back to clip now? Yeah. I can go back in the VOD and clip it. Is the benefit is you can clip from VODs. That's really fucking funny. Welcome in, Dolly. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. Trans rights are human rights, or as we say, equals P. Fucking God. Trans rights equals P. But yeah, so we went... Where was I? talking about the Museum of Illusions, where I went with my parents. And it was really, really, really fun. I was so tired though that like, normally, like you guys watch me play through like Manifold Garden, totally fine. I don't really get disoriented. I was getting a little disoriented. And also they had a like Tower of Hanoi puzzle, and I walked in and I went, Towers of Hanoi, and just ran over and did did the whole thing, which was impressive because it wasn't a typical like small one. It wasn't like a 3 or a 5 stack. It was like a 7 or 9 stack. So it took me for fucking ever. But I committed to the bit and did the whole thing because my mom was like, do you know how to do that? I'm like, Mom, I've been doing the Towers of Hanoi in video games since I was like 10. I know how to do this puzzle. It's algorithmic. It's incredibly simple. But I sat there and committed to doing it. I was overheating like fuck, picking up these giant metal, like wood circles. Like the biggest one was this big. My arms were so tired, but I did the whole thing. I'm very good at puzzles. I also solved, there was like one of those like wooden puzzles that was like supposed to be an egg. It really just looked like a potato. I solved that one. Also, one of the streamers that I follow that is a trans man made a trans man character and said he's a self-made man. Yes, all trans men are self-made. Self-made man. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. P, yes. Positively, preposterously, perfect, P. But we also went to St. Lawrence Market because that's right where the Museum of Illusions is, and we got some fancy cheeses, and I got meat sticks because I wanted meat sticks. Well, I wanted jerky more than anything. I like jerky, but meat sticks works. KOTOR having Towers of Hanoi? Yes, yes. KOTOR, I can't remember if it's, no, it's KOTOR 1. I think it's in Kashyyyk, in the like under bit of Kashyyyk, where you're trying to get into where the, it's in both. Yeah, I just specifically remember it being in the first one where you're trying to access the, like, the galaxy map pieces to get to the end bit. You have to go around all these planets and gather these maps. I believe there's a Tower of Hanoi that you have to do that. Caliban? Little circles around a stick, yeah. Korriban? Is it Korriban? I thought it was on Kashyyyk. Korriban is Korrban, yeah. You spelled it right except it's a double R. Does that means it's non-binary day too? Yeah, non-binary people are trans. Under the trans umbrella. You can not identify as trans if you like, but like most, I would consider non-binary people to be trans. You identify as a gender different than you were assigned at birth because no one is assigned a non-binary identity at birth. Like, by definition, even if you're like bi-gender, it's like you weren't assigned both. There's one of Manon too. Well, so I know there were, no, Manon had a puzzle, but it wasn't the Towers of Hanoi specifically. It was similar, in that it was, the Manon one in KOTOR 1 was, you have to, figure out, there's like water levels in 2 chambers, or it might have been 3, and you have to pour them back and forth, but it's not exactly the same because it's not like physical things that have to stack. Yeah, it's pouring water in a cup, so you have to deal with overflow of the water. Like, yeah, buckets puzzles are slightly different. Your sweater's so cozy. It's actually just like a long sleeve t-shirt, but yeah, I love the like, it's non-binary shirt. But yeah, it's one of the buckets puzzles. Korriban, I can't remember what it is. Yeah, Hanoi specific would be Kashyyyk. Yeah, Kashyyyk is the Towers of Hanoi because I remember it specifically. Like I have a visual memory because I love the Towers of Hanoi. It's one of my favorite puzzles. Specific clothing names are hard. Yeah, especially in English. Because like this, it's like a long sleeve t-shirt is essentially what it's called because it's like thin If it was this exact thing but fuzzier or knit, it would be like a thin sweater. It's weird.
Oh, that's really cute. Corbin was like gas levels.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was like, I can't remember. Because there was also like a torture thing in the fucking Sith school. Sorry for spoiling fucking random bits of KOTOR 1, but... Element matching. Okay, yeah. Corbin I can never remember very well. Or you can freeze yourself to death. That's... Oh, yes! Is with the little robot that was like asking you some shit. No, that was in the second one. That was in the second one. Yeah. Anyway. Let me see. I'm gonna avoid what y'all sent me real quick. Because I want to see if I can share some of the BTS from the vacation I went on. Not everything, I'm just gonna grab like a couple things. From like how dumb this fucking place was. I'm just gonna open a bunch of stuff in Opera real quick. Fuck! Who the hell? Thanks, cat. Found you? Yes. Jesus. Goddamn Christ. You mean? You mean to me? Y'all are mean. I thank you for the Korok. Jesus Christ. Let me see. Is this gonna play audio? It is gonna play audio. I don't want you to play audio right now. How do I... Can I open this in Chrome? Or, not Chrome. Opera? Okay, will only let me download this. That's fun. Stop doing that. Jesus. I hate things that autoplay. That's like my least favorite thing that happens on computers is autoplay. Autoplay in any program. I'm like, I know I just opened fucking VLC. You do not have to autoplay. That's not actually a thing you have to do. Let me see. Sorry, there's like a bunch of pictures, so they're like trying to get them all. Wait. That's not the right button. That's the right button. Also, after I show you some of the BTS stuff, I'll look at what Steph sent me. And then I'll talk to you about my doctor's appointment, because that was fucking fun. Doctor's appointment went well. Okay, that should be enough pictures. I don't need to fucking share all of them. I have it blocked on as many things as I can because browser jump scares bad. Yeah. Photos are so good. I was so excited to see the Black Rose. I was like, oh, Black Rose, let's go. Thank you. Yes. photos that I've done recently, I'm also really, really, really happy about. I haven't done any shoots in a bit because I've been busy. Came in from the balcony the other day. My roommate was waiting by the door to ask me something. Got startled so hard I jumped vertically and scared him with my panic screech. Well, at least you scared each other, you know? Roommates who scare together stay together? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm an entire problem. Oh, I did also have a client too, that was fun. That was Wednesday night. That's part of why I wanted to rest, because like I had to do that and then immediately go get a phone to do work. So yeah, I've been going non-stop for like a bit. That's why we don't live together anymore. Yes, it's totally not because we live with our respective partners. So many stuff. Yeah, I just worked 55 hours in a row with breaks to sleep, and that's pretty much it. So just like, that's a thing that I just went through. But yeah, I'm very tired, so if I'm like loopy, that's what. Big kudos on you for the game, honestly. Thank you. I needed that so badly. But yes, I wasn't at 55 hours during the game. I was at 30, 60, 40 something. 42? I was at 42. I'd already worked 40 hours because I worked all day Thursday, all day Friday, Saturday, but also was doing suit fitting at the same time while I was working. Still had a week. Yeah, I'm so tired. But good news, the iron supplements seem to be really helping. I'm not like crashing in the middle of the day. Like a nap is nice and helps, and I'm still napping, but I'm not like passing out for 2 hours. So the new iron supplements are working. I guess before I'll show the pictures and stuff, I'll talk about my doctor's appointment, just while I'm on it, because, so you know how I was complaining, about my hand? So my doctor wanted to see me in person and do like a check of my nervous system to make sure that I was okay, because obviously like I was clearly having nerve pain in my hand, specifically like here in my thumb, like this base part and a little bit up here, but mostly here, and then like all up this finger down into here. So like this V, all of that I was getting nerve pain all up the back, sporadically, and I've still been getting it, but it's mostly here, and it occasionally like comes up. And occasionally comes up, and so I'm having all this like weird, like I'll have like a split second like someone zapped me or stabbed me in the hand, like with like a pin or something. It feels super weird, but like it's like a less extreme version of what I already get in my nipples, because my nipples are still healing. It's the post-top surgery situation where they take your nipples off and put them back on, so your nipples get kind of weird. They're fine. It's just the nerves are still healing. Weird nerve zappies, yeah. So I know what that feels like, and I've also had like crush injuries to nerves before, so I know what nerve damage feels like, right? So I knew that's what that was. Did not expect to hear nipples. Yeah, I had no nipples for like 5 minutes at one point. And now I have nipples again. I had to reattach them. But yeah, so having this stuff in my hand, I talked to my doctor about it. And she's like, okay, I need to see you in person because like that's something I have to test in person. So I go to my doctor today. She's lovely. She's a yapper, ran late. It's fine. It's whatever. We get in the room and she's like, okay, I want to test your reflexes in like your whole body to see like how your nerves are responding and stuff. So my reflexes are all good, which I didn't realize, because the thing is with reflexes, right, where you take the little rubber thing and you bash people, I normally don't react. Like, I thought it was testing tendons, because if you don't hit the exact right spot in my knee, like, it's not doing anything. It's not like doing the full kick thing that's supposed to happen. Like on this knee, if I hit it in the right spot, it like kicks a little. So it turns out I have perfectly fine reflexes because my quad does this immediately. Yeah, mine isn't delayed. Mine's immediate. It just doesn't move my leg very much because my tendons are so floppy. So it's like my quad is reacting immediately. It's just not as visual a response. So that was really cool. She's like, yeah, your reflexes everywhere, totally good. Like, still like really fast, especially like, she's like, wow, you're still like really young, but also like, it's just not strong enough. It's not even that the muscles aren't strong. It's just that like, yeah, well, I guess a little bit the muscles aren't strong, but also just the tendons are floppy. So like the muscle will pull. It'll basically do like, you can kind of see in my hand, if I squeeze here, this is squeezing the tendon, but you can see like my finger move. Some, like these fingers move, like this one, but you can see the rest of my fingers don't do anything, even though I'm pushing everything. This finger moves, but nothing else does. It's because all the other tendons are like really floppy in my hand. Not perfect wording. Yeah. I mean, it's also complicated because it's sort of, if the muscle's not good, it won't react very well, but also the tendons. So like I can push on my tendons and nothing really happens. So like that's part of it. Like this finger does fucking nothing. But like, so it was a bit of that, but she's like, okay, that's all fine. She tested sensation by like running a stick along the side. And she's like, okay, you can feel things. You still have sensation. Because like apparently her biggest fear is that I was losing sensation in my hand to where I'd like easily burn it or hurt myself because I wouldn't be able to feel anything. And I'm like, look, my pain tolerance is stupid. So I do injure myself a little bit. But like, no, I can still like, I can feel like scratching my hand. I can feel that the same. It's maybe like a little different than the other hand, but like barely perceptible. Like I have to kind of think about it. So yeah, like I have some nerve damage. I'm so glad your doctor cares about that. Well, so she said it's because when she was younger, she had like a similar thing where she'd done damage to a nerve and couldn't feel anything in her hand for a bit. She almost set her hand on fire with a blowtorch and had to just never use that hand near anything hot because she knew she couldn't feel anything. So like, Kat, the fact that I have a trans woman of color as a GP is so goddamn helpful all the time because I did that in kitchen, yeah. But just like the fact that she understands, like a lot of times she's like, I know what that's like, or like been through something similar enough that she's like, I get what's happening. So like when I was trying to get top surgery, I didn't have to go through like the normal hoops that people have to go through to like be like, to prove that they're trans enough. She just went, yeah, you've been identifying as non-binary for most of the time that we've been, like, you've been my patient. Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense that you'd be roughly around this time, like, since coming out, that you'd be thinking about, like, stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I never had to see a therapist or anything for top surgery. I know some people have to, like, see a therapist or see a social worker or something. My GP just went, yeah, no, you've been seeing us for forever. You don't, it's whatever. That's a good doctor. Yeah, she's incredible. And again, it also helps that I'm going to Sherburne Health Center, which is the trans healthcare, like, pinnacle of the entire country. So, like, as far as getting trans healthcare, it's Sherburne, yeah. Please, like, I know I just shared where my doctor's office is. It's because, like, very obviously that's where my doctor's office is. Please don't show up at my doctor's office. I've been trying to get in there forever. They're bad. Yeah, they're awesome. It's just like really hard because like they only have so many doctors and like they haven't been taking patients for a while. I think I only got in because Mara went there and got me in. Everything about healthcare right now? Yeah. Though Kat, she did give me the name of a physiotherapist who specializes in EDS, who used to work out of Toronto Western Hospital. So I can give you that name. I don't think physiotherapy is covered under OHIP, but ODSP might cover. So yeah, I can send that to you. Cause like, yeah. It's not great. Love that. But yeah, so that went well. We talked about a bunch of other stuff, like some just checkup stuff I have to do. I don't think I can do that. yes, that would be weird, but yeah. I can manage still? Okay, cool. But anyway, so we figured out why my hand is numb, too. So she had me bring my cane. My cane's just on the other side of that. I'm gonna grab my cane and I'm gonna show you why I have nerve damage in my hands. Because yes, I have nerve damage in my hand because of my cane. So it's not that I'm doing anything particularly wrong. Cane. So this is my cane. I love him. He is my friend. He is collapsible, so when I don't need him, I can put him in a backpack and still keep him with me. Really great for travel, especially on airports. Magical cane. I love my cane. Probably a little for PC usage. Actually, no. So I don't have nerve damage from like that. It's specifically because I've been using canes like this So I started using a cane 20 years ago when I was 14. And I think I can demonstrate with this one. It doesn't get quite short enough, but I used to use like a cane. And I used to do this. It was like way too short for me. Let me see if I do that. Yeah, it was like here on me because I couldn't get one the right height. So you're supposed to have canes if your hand's like here, it should be here. So it's your hand straight. Mine was down here. And so to reach it, to lean on it, I had to like do this. So I was walking like this as a kid to lean on this. Because I also, I didn't have a doctor. That's so much overcompensating. Yes. My doctor when I was a kid didn't believe me that I had EDS, or that, not that I had the words for it, but like didn't believe me that I was dislocating my knee at all. So I just got a cane from the grocery store or the pharmacy, which is meant for like little old ladies who are like 5 foot tall. I'm 5'7", and I think I was still like 5'6", I like 5'5" maybe when I was in high school when I got the cane, but I was like very clearly too tall for the tallest the canes could be. I had it on the highest height and it was like I was leaning like this. So as you can see, that's not the angle your back should be at, and that's putting way too much weight on my knee. But I also, my only example for how to use a cane was Dr. House on TV, because I didn't have like someone to actually teach me how to use a cane properly. You're supposed to be up straight and you're not supposed to lean over like that. And also because this was my bad leg, I should have been using it in this hand. I'm so glad I didn't, because then this hand would have been fucked. But yes, so I used a cane like that until I was in university, and then I switched to walking sticks.
Hello!
Hello, Lucy, welcome in. But yeah, so I started moving to walking sticks because I found these a lot better. Because, happy Trans Day of Visibility, Lucy, by the way. So for me, doing this, even when it's at the right height, I do have a bit of a hard time because you have to keep your wrist straight, but my joints have a tendency to just like, even at the right, this is like probably, this is too tall, should be here. But like even at that height, my wrist has a tendency to like turn out because my joints are terrible. So I have to think consciously about holding it straight. If I just relax and lean on it, it folds. And that hurts like fuck. So I had like really terrible wrist pain all the time from my wrist being like that with all of my body weight on it. Arm spaghetti, yes. Knees weak, mom spaghetti, yes. So like I switched to these because what I would do is put my hand in here, which also helps because it means like if I need to carry something, I can just let it go to like use a banister or to like open a door or whatever. So I would have it like this, but then I hold it like this so this strap holds my wrist straight. So I found this really helpful, right? So this way when my hands were weaker, because like this is also back when I was working retail and lifting things and doing things with my hands all the time. Oh my God, good luck, Lucy. I hope it heals fast and quick too. But yeah, so this is a little bit easier because I don't really have to hold on to it. So let me get this to the right height again. Ow. This is better. So when I like swing it, like I don't really have to hold it. I can just sort of swing this out of my hand because I can just hook this, fling it. I don't have to hold it to use it because I'm pushing on the strap. So can you see where the nerve damage comes in? For this part of my hand. Because also when I go downstairs, that doesn't work. So I do this so I can reach down the stairs. Do you see where the nerve damage happened? Do you get it? Do you see what I did to myself? Because I've been using a cane like this for like coming on 15 years now. This right here, this is why I have nerve damage in my hand. That's why? Yes, that's why I have nerve damage in this hand, is because I'm pinching a nerve with my cane when I walk. I'm glad you found it. Yeah, so, that's dumb. Yes, it's very dumb. So, the solution, there's a couple things I can do to fix this. It's dumb as fuck, yes. So the solution, I could actually feel it in my hand now. When I use a grocery bag, I twist them and put it in a position like that. Oh no. So it's also different between holding a grocery bag for like 15 minutes versus you also have to keep in mind, I'm not just holding a grocery bag. I'm sometimes leaning my entire body weight. Like if I'm coming downstairs, right? I'm leaning my whole body weight on this, right? So like this is gonna pinch a lot more. Like this isn't heavy, but because I'm putting all of my body weight on my hand and this is pulling it, and I'm like, obviously be careful about nerve damage from carrying heavy things a lot all the time, but because I'm doing this to my hand for hours at a time, right? It's not like this happened. It's your third leg, yeah. I can't believe that's why, yeah. So it's not like I did this in like a week, a month, a year. I've been using a cane like this for over a decade, and now I'm starting to have problems. It's like a repetitive stress injury, right? So like, if you're not doing something repeatedly, you'll probably be fine. If you do start feeling tingly, just stop doing the thing. Nerves do recover. I wouldn't like twist a bag. Like if you have a bag on your hand like this, and it's really heavy, and it's leaving like imprints in your hand, like be careful. But if it's just got like a bag of chips and some stuff in it, you're fine. It's just like, this bit is like where the nerve branch for all of this part of your hand is. So because I've been using it like that for a decade, I've slowly started damaging my hand. Do you want to know what the fucking annoying thing is? Do you want to know what the solution is so I don't injure my hand? So that the nerves in my fingers start healing and the nerve damages won't be permanent. Because if I do this thing, my hand will heal and it will completely go back to normal and I'll be fine. Do you want to know the solution? It's not get a new cane. It's not change anything other than just use my other hand half the time. because then I'm not hurting the one hand as much. I just have to use the other hand half the time. And then like pay attention so that when I'm doing stuff, I'm, instead of, you know, going down the stairs and doing this where it's pulling on my hand, doing this so it's looser. That's it. That's all I have to do. Instead of doing this where it's like pulling on my hand a bunch, is just like hold the cane with my hand and not use the strap. So the strap can be around my wrist, but I'm not doing like this where it's hanging on here, but like just hold it higher so it's loose and it's not actually holding it. Just hold the cane properly. That's all I have to do. That makes sense? Yeah, all I have to do is hold it properly and alternate hands. That's it. I don't even need a new cane. She said like maybe having like a proper cane, that like a proper one, but she's like even this, if you just switch your hand and use the other one. Imagine being Azura using a tool as intended. So I've, for the last like 2-3 months, I've had these weird like tingles and pain in my hand. I can solve it now. Just use this hand. Oh my God, wow, yeah. Bam. So yeah, if I just do this and hold it loosely, so this is dangly and not like, because if it's dangly, right, it's not putting pressure on my hand. I can just hold my hand properly and not do what I'm doing right now, which is like leaning on it. Or doing like this where it's like pulling, because that's like, it's hard to see on camera, but that's pulling my hand like in here. Can look at Discord DM now? Yeah, I can. But that's why my hand is fucked up. This, I've been using this wrong. That's it. That's it. I'm a nightmare being. But yeah. Also, Kat, I'm not going to talk about this on stream because it's very heavy. But remind me after stream or like anytime, off camera, to explain to you why the EDS clinic sucks now. Because my doctor explained why the EDS clinic isn't so good now. And it's really funny. And by funny, I mean terrible. Okay. Discord DM. And then I'd also like to know later. Yes. Fuck it, I'll just say it now. Okay, what happened was the doctor that's in there now is okay, but like just goes based off the diagnostic criteria and is not very like, doesn't really think about stuff outside of like it as given. Because like with EDS, there's like a certain amount of flexibility you have to have for like outside the strict criteria when people have, oh, Kat, so why the EDS clinic sucks now. My doctor explained why. So, yes, the doctor right now that's in there is okay, but it's really just following the criteria for diagnostic really strictly. Because that's okay, but it's not great because there's a lot of people who can't get diagnosed that way because having a really hard line threshold for what counts and what doesn't, like on some level does make sense for some things that you do need to put a threshold somewhere, because someone who can just like do that with their foot or who can like has hitchhiker's thumb, you don't have EDS. I disagree with okay, TBH, fair. But like she can diagnose people who are like my level of bad or worse. Apparently it used to be very good because there was a doctor there that was really awesome and like it used to be really, really good. According to my GP, was like it's like whatever now, but it was good before, and it's not great now because the excellent doctor that used to be there, mine was male. Yes, the guy who's there now, the one who was there before was a woman. Yes, I think I'm mixing up pronouns. So the guy who's there now just goes based on the criteria. I think there's multiple doctors. I think it's just whatever dude's running it right now. But the woman who used to run it initially, her husband also worked at that hospital as a neurosurgeon. And when they started to go through a divorce, he murdered her and put her in a suitcase. So that's why the EDS clinic sucks now. Because a man couldn't take the word no. Isn't that great? Yep. That's why the EDS clinic sucks. Yep. Yep. I just found out today. It's like, cool, love that. That's awesome. Yeah. Apparently he was a really good neurosurgeon, but also, what the fuck? So yeah, that's why the EDS clinic's not really that very good anymore. Let me see. So Steph sent me a thing. I'm trying not to look at it until it's like on the other screen. Fucking hell, man. I cannot take these shenanigans anymore. Yeah, this was a while ago. Okay, I'm trying not to look at it. Okay. A sweet and scary horror movie told entirely from the dog's point of view. I need this. I need this badly. I need this immediately. Might actually be a movie I'd watch with you. Yeah, because you like the doggos. Oh no, the dog is traumatized. Yeah, the dog's not gonna have a good time. But, puppy. But, a lot of times in horror movies, the dog lives. Because people get upset. We're okay with people dying, but not the dog. So, I feel like Lucy and Max would also, or, Lucy and Cryptid would be really, really down to watch this with me. I'm really, really excited. Lucy and Cryptid have to watch this with me. I'm gonna send this to, in case Lucy's lurking, I'm gonna send this to them real quick. The assholes look at me, animals are the best. You're pretty dope too, you shush. And the dog is okay? I mean, maybe, I don't know. I would like to hope so. Okay, I just sent that to Lucy. Can I post a Steam link? Sure. You could also DM it to me. Through most of the movie? Yeah, I guess if it's through their POV, they'd kind of have to live a good chunk of the time. Oh, a puzzle game where you learn Japanese? That's actually kind of sick. That actually is kind of sick. Yeah. This is kind of cool. That's actually sick.
Nekoda.
Cat. I know Neko. that's actually a really, really sick way to like teach language. Cause a thing I've always had issues with for learning language, had on my wish list for like a year. It just came out. Fuck yeah. Cause like I have a really hard time learning language in the way that it's often taught. I don't learn well through like the normal like you know, memorization kind of path. That's super sick. Yeah. That's rad. I learn much better through like exposure. Like I learn like a fucking baby learns language, right? You need to give me the basics. More visual to me, which would probably help. Yeah. Like when I was in Japan, I picked up language like so fast. Where I would just see something in context all the time and like pick it up. Or you pick up like the natural structure of things rather than having to memorize it. Cause like when you learn language as a kid, what you're doing is you're learning concepts. You're not translating. So yeah, I'm really, really, really interested in that because that's much closer to like natural language acquisition, which is instead of like, you're learning to recognize concepts because they're puzzles. A lot of times with puzzles, you're recognizing a concept or a symbol rather than thinking about specifically translating things. Like the reason I'm so good at Manifold Garden is that I'm not manually translating gravity each time I'm like switching direction or when I'm making something fall or thinking about stuff. Because I'm not trying to translate things into an up or down, I'm sort of like, as I walk up to a wall, I've already reoriented before I've gotten there. I'm really good at moving things around in my mind. So I found that game was really, really easy because I would just think, without gravity in mind, I would just think of it as a giant object that I'm moving around. My cursor is just stuck at the bottom. So like, because I wasn't trying to like refigure out things every time, or like playing Portal, like I don't have to think box goes on button every time. For me, cube button is like single symbol that I just know they go together. I'm not like thinking about, okay, a button opens the door. I just go like, oh, this concept of block button door is all associated. I'm not like manually going like, oh, there's a button. What does this button do? It's like, well, obviously it opens the door. It always does. That's what the buttons do. Or it engages like whatever thing it's attached to, but you get used to like, it's associated with doing certain things. So you're using them as blocks of meaning rather than being like, okay, like instead of going like neko means cat, if someone just says neko to you and you immediately think of like the image of a four-legged, like you have that image in your head without having to think about neko means cat, cat is this. It's just like cutting out that middle translation bit is like the best way to get language to become like where you could speak in a language and understand a language at conversational speeds rather than having to sit there and go like, oh God, what? It's the reason why I can read French fine. I can read in French. Not fluently. I haven't taken French in, again, like 20 years. But like, I can just look at shit and know what, like, I know that like, pamplemousse, I'm pronouncing it wrong because I've pronounced it like that my whole life as a joke. So now it's just stuck like that. I know that means a grapefruit, but I don't think of a I don't need to translate that to grapefruit to know what that means. I just know that that's a grapefruit. Like if I look at a grapefruit, I see both words simultaneously. Or more so, if it's grapefruit juice, I think pamplemousse. If I see a physical grapefruit, I think grapefruit. I don't ask why. Called Mosca piece of garbage? Fuck yeah. I did learn songs from different languages. I know 3 songs in Old Norse, 2 in Latin, and 3 in Japanese. I do know a couple songs in like different languages, which is really helpful. So like, there are certain like aspects of things where like I don't have to translate them because I just know what they mean. But like a lot of why I haven't been good at picking up languages is because most of the way that they're taught is memorizing vocabulary and memorizing grammar rules. And I don't learn that way. I do much better if you give me like, I learn like a child. Just give me basic, like, it would be fine memorizing vocabulary if you're just teaching me the basic structure and not expecting me to learn how to conjugate it 40 different ways. Just tell me that apple in fucking Japanese is ringu. Great, ringu. Don't tell me how to fucking conjugate anything. Don't tell me how to ask where an apple is. Just let me go ringu and point at it, or ringu. Like, that works. Let me talk like a 3-year-old. And then I will start picking up more things, and then I can slot my vocabulary words into structures. Or then I learn grammar rules of like how sentence order works and how like words like where is thing. Then I figure that out. Don't make me learn conjugation until I understand structure first. Most native speakers will not care you're fucking up the conjugation. No. Ukrainian conjugates everything. If you learn any, I'm just happy you're here. Yeah. Like, I genuinely think Romance languages need to be taught without teaching noun classes, without teaching gendered nouns. Don't fucking worry about that. Just learn how to say the noun without the word the. Just omit like la la le and just don't use it. Just don't use it at all. Just be like, yes, this is used. You could recognize if there's like a la la le in front of it. That means something. Don't fucking worry about that for now. Do you know I hate articles? I fucking hate them. That's why Japanese is like the only language I've made actual progress learning. In English included, yeah. At least the in English is just the. The rest of our language is stupid, but that I don't mind. But like, learning noun classes is silly. And also stop calling them gendered nouns. Stop doing that. Just call them noun classes. They're groups of nouns that conjugate similarly. Disassociate them from gender. Yes, woman and man are in separate gender and separate noun classes, but stop calling them genders. Yeah. That again, that's why Japanese is great. It doesn't have that. You know where Japanese fucks up? They have number classes. That's stupid. The way they count is dumb. I refuse to learn it. If I ever end up fluent in Japanese, it's gonna be fluent, but I will never learn to count properly. I will just say each thing. I'm not gonna say ippon. I do not care. I am not doing that. Not doing that. Maybe if I'm like fluent, I'll give a shit. But when I'm first learning a language as like a tourist, or like I'm gonna go to another country, or I wanna understand like a manga or whatever, I want to be able to like have a conversation with people, I'm not gonna fucking worry about that. You gotta get to being fluent first. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't give a shit about noun classes. I don't care. Like die, der, and des, like in fucking, it's de, die, and der in German. Don't give a shit. Don't give a fuck. Das Boot, don't give a fuck. It's just boot now. Don't care. Just let me just figure out the basic version of a word, right? The basic version of a word. The noun is noun, not the noun, it's just noun. A noun, the noun, some noun, it's just noun, okay? We're just gonna go noun, simplest version of verb, noun. That's it. That's all we're gonna do. We're gonna figure out the sentence structure and the basic shit. Ichi, ni, san, shi, go, roku, and then I forget. Yeah, except the funny thing is, she is sometimes wrong. Sometimes it's yon, because she means death. So sometimes they just say it different. Also, so like basic counting I can do in Japanese up until like 100 and something. Because 100 is hyaku. So like I don't care, 4 is 4. I know. But it just means like if someone says yon, you know that means 4. Or instead of shichi, which is I think 8. No, it's 7. It's 7. Sometimes they say nana, so they don't say shi. But yes, ich ni san shi go roku shichi hachi kuju, juichi, etc. But like when you say 40, it's not shiju, it's yonju. Every time. Or if like 14 is like ju yon. It's not ju shi. They always use yon if it's more than 10. Ukrainian doesn't have articles, which is great, but nouns have 7 conjugations based on where in the sentence they are, which is definitely a thing. Yeah, so if I was gonna learn Ukrainian, I would be like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not conjugating literally anything ever until I understand the first step, which is like, so the first thing is you learn a bunch of nouns. You just learn nouns so you can point at them. Learn a billion nouns. Don't learn how to conjugate them, just learn the nouns. Learn some verbs. Learn some question words. Then, once you have that, because I will just do that in English order until I just don't have to think about the vocabulary. I just know that's what that means. Then I will put them in the right order without conjugating them. So now I know how to, yeah, that's exactly how kids learn. So you like take the simple version of the thing and you put it in the right order. And it clearly works for them. Yes. Well, and also if I clearly look like this and go to Japan and speak perfect vocabulary, like I know all the words for everything and I'm doing them all in the correct order, but I'm not conjugating anything, I just sound like I'm 2. But I can clearly communicate. I can clearly go to people and be like, me want pizza. And they'd be like, all right, I know exactly what you said. And then they can, also, it clearly communicates that you can use words back to me. You don't have to try and translate it into English. I will understand what you mean. Just use simple, like talk to me like you're talking to a child, like simple language, and I might understand because I'm clearly speaking, my vocabulary is broad enough, it's just not conjugated. And then once you have the word order down, and you have your vocabulary down, and you're comfortable with that, then you add the conjugation a little bit at a time. And also, if there's an exception, and there's a reason why there's an exception, just explain that. Like, Mara used to be really, when we used to do stuff together, talking about like learning language, Mara was really good to be like, oh, there's an exception with conjugating the word good in Japanese, which is e. The word good in Japanese is e. But when you conjugate it, it's yo something because the original word for good is yoi. So it's an e adjective, yoi, and you conjugate it as yoi. So with those you drop the e part and add the conjugation onto the front. So I guess I think I'm doing this right in the mirrored whatever. So it would be yoi, so it would be yo kudasai or whatever. I don't remember a lot of the actual vocabulary anymore because it's been 5 years, 6 years since I've spoken Japanese. So knowing that's what that is, that normally when you say good, you just drop the yo and say e, but when you conjugate it, that dropped yo comes back, and you conjugate it normally, it's like, oh, that's easy to remember, because now I understand why you're doing that. Now I understand what yo something means. That means it's good, but conjugated. Cool, got it. E. It's actually technically, E in Japanese is I. The letter E is just e, because it's like a short version of the, and like the letter A is a. If you want to say A, it's A-I, I think it's A, because you add the little, it's A-E, I. I don't know, that's I. A. Anyway, you combine letters together to make the transliteration from language to language at a time, yeah. feel like you never fail to impress me. Thank you. Unu, doi, tre, patru, cinci, sase? I don't know how to read that. That's a weird little... Sapte, opt, nue. I don't know how the C is pronounced, but zetche? Zesse? The thing is, that's just French. Or Spanish, but like pronounced differently. Or it's very close. Because like uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, noche, siete, ocho, nueve, diez is Spanish. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six. Yeah. That's pretty good. Thank you. So that's a sh. Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's a sh. So it's chasse. Shopte. Okay. That's pretty good. Thank you. I will say that's one of the things I usually pick up pretty quick in a language is pronunciation. I picked up like German and Japanese pronunciation really well. I do struggle with French sometimes just because it's like a lot of dropped stuff. And that's why I am never going to try and learn Chinese. Because it's too tonal and my autism does not allow me to hear the differences between some of those tones. Like, German's easy because all of the sounds in German, we have something the same in English except for like a very few things. They're very close. Or it's a combination of sounds that we already have. And like Japanese, it's all of the same sounds. It's honestly less sounds than in English. The like only ones that are like complicated are like ones that are like combinations of things, like tsi in like tsunami. We just say su, but they say tsi, so there's like a T-S. Because no one in the West can decide how to transliterate the backwards R. Sounds like yeah. Yeah, we don't have a sound like a phoneme like that in English. That's part of the problem. Where like if we have something similar, that like helps. But if we don't have sounds that are similar, it becomes really, really, really difficult to like transliterate if like the sounds are different. And like I struggle understanding Chinese. And like it doesn't matter if it's Mandarin or Cantonese, like it all just sounds like sibilant sounds. It just sounds like someone saying sh a million times. Like I had a friend in university who spoke Mandarin and like would try and explain stuff to me, and I'm just like the difference between sh, zh, and like duh, I'm like, those all sound this fucking same to me, and I just made them with my own mouth. I know what the difference is in what I just did. But like, it was a lot of like, sh. I'm like, that's the same sound. There's a slight bit more teeth in it, I guess. How am I supposed to hear that? So like, or like, it goes up at the end or down at the end. I'm like, I can't tell what people's tones are in English. Nope, not even gonna try. Not gonna try. It's beautiful language, beyond my ability. It's like, there are certain things I just know that I will never be a marathon runner. I'm not even gonna fucking try. Even Japanese transliteration to English is not always consistent because how? Yeah, I think with Japanese, a lot of the sounds exist in English. The problem is people try and write it because the English has more, some sounds aren't a thing. Yeah, like more so that English has sounds that Japanese doesn't have. So if you transliterate it exactly, people will start pronouncing it wrong in English. Because if I write like, oh, what's a good example? If he's in W's, yeah. Well, that's also a good example because like ramen is how you say it in English. Ramen is how you say it in like ramen is it in Japanese because it's like halfway between an R and an L. Ramen. It's an R, but it's not as. It's not like as hard. No. Oh, the T of the thing is like t. Okay. We do roller R's. Yeah, I struggle with rolled R's. Like I can do it in isolation, but in words I can't. But yeah. All that to say, that game looks really fucking cool. That looks like a great way to learn language because it's much closer to like how people actually learn. Because it doesn't seem like it's making you like you're figuring out vocab and order, and it's not really making you. It doesn't seem like it's teaching you conjugation immediately. Quiet repeating background noise? I don't know. I'm currently not, but I'm on this side. Cannot tell the audio difference between whale and veil. Fair. Repeating background noise. Okay, can you let me know what you mean? I do hear it. If I mute desktop audio, does it go away? Did that make it go away? No? Okay, if I'm gonna mute my mic and tell me if it goes away if I mute my mic and have desktop audio on. Okay, so that means there's something going up with my mic. I figured that was gonna be the fastest way to figure out where it was coming from. So it's my mic. Okay, give me a second. Also, let me know, has that been happening the whole time or did it just start? Unplug and replug it? Yeah, I will do that. I'm just gonna mute the mic real quick. Just because then you're not hearing the weird popping because that's gonna hurt. Okay, a decent amount of time, but it didn't just start? Okay. But not the whole time. Hard to hear when stuff is louder? Okay. Is it better just for me replugging the plugs? Still happening. Okay. Huh. It's still there, but quieter. Huh. Let me figure it out. Let me know if it just went away. Oh, it's my tinnitus? Okay. Try the other end of my plug. Let me know. Let me know if it's still going. Okay. Because I could hear, when you said it was like a skipping record, there was a buzz in the room. But it was the heater, which I just turned off. Maybe it's dusty with the mic? Mic's not dusty. You listen to my headphones? Okay, yeah, one sec, that might help. But yeah, no, the mic's not dusty. It has like a thing on it. Like I can't show you, but it's a stick mic with a big fuzzy thing on it. The plug-in? It shouldn't. We keep it in a plastic bag, like the jack. No, I don't think so, because we keep it in a thing, and like the plug in the camera has like a little cover on it, so like it shouldn't be dusty, because we keep them in like plastic bags and stuff. They're sealed. One second. Oh, I hear that. Or I hear it. I don't know what the fuck that is. Okay. I couldn't hear it at first, and then I was like, oh, it's that. Because I could just hear myself walking around. Okay. Okay. Is it still happening? I tried to do some like software stuff in case it's on the computer end, because it's not quite like when my computer crashed. Yes, but it's quieter. Did it get quieter even from when it was like 5 seconds ago, or quieter from when it first started? Because I know me fiddling with the cord also made it quieter. I'm also so fucking thirsty and I need to eat my meat stick. Yes, cool. I asked too many questions. Both ends of the mic cord? Yeah, I should probably try that. Much quieter? Okay, that's good at least. Something like the static? Maybe? I'm gonna try and flip the mic cord around and see if that helps. I'm just gonna mute real quick so it doesn't pop your ears. Ah, okay. There. I know I'm audible now because I can see my fucking mixer moving. Is the buzz back? Because if the buzz is back, then it's still have the clicking. Okay, so the clicking is coming from the cable then, which I can't fix right now. there's nothing I can do about the cable because I only have one mic cable. But at least I know that's the problem and I can just get another cable. I have to go get one, but hey, at least we figured out the problem is my mic cable. I don't know what happened to it that it broke, but problem located, yes. So, oh, you have another mic cable? Well, so I don't know if that one's gonna work, hon, because I've used that one before and it doesn't really work. We'll give it a shot though. At least I know if I put it in backwards, it'll be muted. So if it doesn't work, I will. They made to break. Yeah, they're tiny little Rode mic cables. So like, give me a sec. I'm gonna try this, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna switch it around. And if that still doesn't work, I'll just put it back. So 1 second. Okay, we're getting closer. God damn it, I have it bumped to 20 decibels and doing nothing. Did I click it? No, it's fine. I've got... Is it getting louder at least? As I'm fucking with stuff, is it getting louder? Or is it still super quiet? Well, that didn't work. Fuck, okay. Okay. Well, I'm probably super loud now. Sorry about that. So I had to crank it for the thing. Okay, do I sound okay? Am I like way too loud now? There we go. Just don't want to peak it. It's gonna take a minute. Don't worry about it for now. I just want to show because I was gonna show BTS stuff from when I was away with the folks. Jump scare? What, was I like super loud? Down a bit more? Okay. Is that good? There we go. I'm in the yellow now. Bah! Okay. I don't hit the red, so we're good. So even Max volume 2. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna show the like BTS stuff, and then I want to talk political stuff. Because I have a bunch of shit I want to talk about. And it's already getting late. It's getting late. I gotta turn the lights on. 1 second. Professional streamer has turned my IKEA lamps on, so you can fucking see me. This is dark. Okay. Ow! Sat on my foot. Okay, yeah. So that cord doesn't work, but we know it's the cord, and we know what kind of cord to get now. So, that is fine. Okay. So, dinos. That's supposed to be a T-Rex. It's very small. They also had another T-Rex. It was not that small. They were very different sizes. So yeah, we had dinos. PRB bathroom. PRB. For some reason, it said the T-Rex lived in North America. That's not North America. That's America. That's the United States. That's some bullshit. Trans rights for Steph? Yeah, Steph, trans rights. I know, I will. I'm yapping. Ankylosaurus plushie? Yeah, I have an Ankysaur and a Stegosaur. This is Spike. He is my son. He is Mace. He is my other son. Respect my sons, okay? They're the plushies that live in the living room. That's a decision for North America? It sure damn is. The greatest thing too is there's like because Land Before Time, literally it's just because he's spiky, but a little bit that, yeah. And he's called Mace because he has a mace on his butt. But yeah, for the Albertosaurus, it just says a map of all of Canada, and it says, I think it says North America, or it says Canada, or I think it might be Canada and, I don't know. Everything in this place is fucking weird. Also, the measurements would switch between metric and imperial on sides that were next to each other. Very weird. Very weird place. This is me being way better than Chris Pratt in every possible way. Look at how these velociraptors are respecting me. Look at that. Yes, Spike Spiegel. I am in control of all of the imperial. Metric to imperial to metric is really the Canadian experience. Yeah, it kind of is. But also some of the facts were just wrong. But yeah, this was a time. Oh yeah, this is when we went to Everyone's Better than Chris Pratt. Yeah. This is when we went for brunch at the Lakeview. The bottom Steph drew, the top I drew because I've been obsessed with Severance. Yeah, look at the little guy, look at his little hands. Look at him. Look at him. He's just a baby. Look at him. He's so cute. Wake up a baby. Also, I want to play the fucking, my favorite part of this entire dinosaur exhibit was this bit. Alright? This is labeled a Quetzalcoatlus. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. That voice, thank you. Why is Severance there? I drew that because I'm obsessed, alright? And they only had blue and orange everything. So I drew macro data refinement. I drew that. That was me. Thought it just happened at the dental place. No, we went for brunch the next day, and I drew that. But in case you missed it, so that's a red-tailed hawk, commonly mistaken as an eagle. Oh my god, we gotta yell about Severance off stream because spoilers. But yes, I have thoughts, and we will talk. Have you watched the season 2 finale? Have you gone through all of it? So you've gone through all of it. Thoughts, and we will yell thoughts at each other, and it will be a good time. I have not watched Severance. It is extremely good. Is extremely good. I'm not gonna be the type of person who's like, you have to watch it, it's good. It's like, there's tons of good stuff that I refuse to watch because it's not my vibe. But it's Severance is very good for people who like mystery shows that are driven by a mystery. B, stories that are very character driven. C, people who like want to nerd out about stuff because there's so much to nerd out about between the color grading choices, the architecture they choose to show, the acting choices, the culty aspects, the work-life balance aspects, the corporate stuff. Like, there's so many aspects of that show to like really dig into. Like, there's psychology, there's all sorts of stuff. What if Lost, but it's an office and also good, yes. It's also, I think the most important thing for me about the show, beyond all of these other things, the most important thing about this show to know is that it's a show that rewards you for paying attention. It rewards you for paying attention and being media literate. It expects you to understand nuance. You need to be able to like basically have like two characters and root for both of them, even though only one of them can win. Rewards me, say less, yeah. It genuinely is so good at making you like, it doesn't let you have the easiness of like a flattened narrative where there's a good guy and a bad guy. It's really good at giving antagonists to the PCs, to like the main characters. It makes all of the antagonists have legitimate motivations for what they do. It makes the main characters have motivations for what they do. The main characters are flawed. The main characters are in conflict with each other, and the protagonists are also antagonists for themselves and other people. It's so really good at causing brain rot, yeah, but like in a good way. Absolutely. It's such a well-written show, and when I saw the end of episode 1 and it said made by Ben Stiller, I was like, what the fuck are you, what? Like Blue Steel? Ben Stiller? Ben Stiller. Ben fucking Stiller. What? Huh? Zoolander, Ben Stiller. Yes. I don't understand. But this is where we're at. And like, the cast is stacked. It's so good. The cast of Severance, it has so many incredible actors. And yet, the actors that I've enjoyed the most are the ones I've never heard of before. That give like outstanding performances. Adam Scott is most impressive. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, there's a, like, right at the start of the first episode, there's a moment where he's like crying in his car. And I'm not gonna give spoilers or anything, but there's a moment where he's crying and he's got like, he's shaking and trembling and there's like snot dripping down his nose. It's perfect. It's like not like full on ugly sobbing, but it's not like pretty single tear crying either. It's so real of like how someone cries when they're like need to cry but really need to stop crying. Brit lower, yeah. Fucking the guy who plays Milkshake is incredible. Patricia Arquette fucking kills it. The guy who plays Dylan, so fucking good, especially season 2. So goddamn good. But yeah, Milkshake. His real name is Milchek, but everyone calls him Milkshake. He's just called Milkshake, okay? But, like, all of the actors do such a good fucking job. Gwendolyn Christie, oh my fucking god. I mean, I love her anyway, but, like, Jesus. Such a good show. If you like that sort of stuff, it's only 19 episodes, and most of the episodes are, like, 40 minutes long, so it's not, like, stupid long. Yeah, like, everyone in that show is really fucking good. I don't think there's anyone where I was like, oh, the acting's not incredible. The acting from literally everyone is impeccable. It's unbelievably good. Especially, like, to have that when, like, so much of what we've been given lately is just, like, fucking popcorn slop. It's like, I've loved aspects of the MCU. I love Star Wars. But, like, the most recent, like, sequel trilogy of Star Wars is just, it's not even, like, the actors. It's just they've been given nothing to work with. Or, like, in the MCU, like, some of those actors are really, really good. But they've just been given nothing. An actor cannot save a terrible script. Okay, I'm done now. Yeah, it's so good. We will yell at each other later about it, but yeah, it's incredible. And I think it deserves the hype that it's getting. It's not overrated at all. I'm so shocked it didn't get more love from season 1 when season 1 came out. Like, season 2, it blowing up, get it? But I cannot believe it didn't blow up earlier. Burp, burp, burp. And then, yes. So then we went to the Illusion Museum. And this was like an infinite room. I could have stayed in this room forever. The lights at the top changed color. This was like my favorite room. It turned out to be Nero. That's really funny. But yeah, this room was so much fun because it was like sealed off from the rest of the museum. So cool. Yeah. And I will say though, if you run in a circle, you get really fucking dizzy. If you spin in a circle in there, it's not a fun time. But just hanging out in there, incredible. There's this bit. Grab your hands, please. Yeah, it was so good sensory too, because it's like completely sealed off, so there's no noise. So there's this bit. Just this like infinite tunnel that they had for me to fall through. It was super cool. So really that photo's been flipped upside down. It's the other way around. I was just standing. But the pointed toe really fucking sells it, eh? Professional model right here. But yeah, it's like the sign's upside down, so when you take photos and flip it, it looks like, but you're standing on like some glass with like an infinite thing. Snoozling rooms? I do not. But yeah, this was great, because like this and this are like infinite mirrors. So it looks like it goes forever when you're standing on it too. Then there's this. Which again, it's just upside down. So when you take photos and you flip it, it looks really confusing. But the lighting coming from the ceiling over here really sells that this is the way it's supposed to be. Like the lighting all works and makes sense. It's so wild walking into an upside down like subway car. And like the maps and everything, it like super duper sells it. No guns. But yeah, this was a fun time. And yeah, this was basically that wall is white normally. So there's a like there's 3 lights pointed at me. It's like a red, a green, and a blue. And then you end up getting cyan, magenta, and orange. It's so good. Multi-sensory room for autistics. They use soft music, color, and different textures. That sounds awesome. Like, I do know what sensory rooms are. I've just never heard, like, that specific term. But yeah, this was a fucking blast. You just can't fucking see for shit. But the, like, playing with the light is so good. So yeah, this whole museum was a fucking blast. You're in there for, like, an hour. And it's pretty chill. There's a bunch of, like, puzzles on tables and stuff to play with, too. Place looks so fun. It really is. It really is. And, like, great place for pictures and stuff.
Really?
Is that Toronto? Yeah, it's downtown.
They says silliness is good. I may have's got too silly. They says silliness is good. I may have's got too silly.
I may have got too silly. I may have. I may have. I don't know what's happening. Need a vacation? Yeah, you deserve a break, man. You've had like a rough couple days. Too silly. Silly. Silly, silly, silly. Yes. So, politics stuff. Let me get my tabs. Let me get my tabs. Now I'm gonna get my tip tabs. Tibby tabs. So we are going to be mainly covering Canadian political stuff because we are currently in the midst of a Canadian election, and it's extremely important. It's a very, very, very important election. Ba-ba-ba. Let me see. It's one thing I shared. I think I forgot to send it to myself. One sec. Okay, there we go. Now I gotta organize my tabs. Okay. Not because politics, I just forgot to eat. Yeah. My mood changing from 1 to 100. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Why is this in, like, mobile? Why is this a mobile version of this? Oh, I see. It's just, like, crunched weird. There we go. If I just do that, it pops out normal. There we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what thing I want to talk about first. Start with the bad? Well, the thing is, it's kind of, there's a mix of things, right? Maybe, I'll start with cringy. Maybe we'll start with cringy. So this is Poilievre at a campaign rally. This is just super duper fucking cringy, all right? He tries to explain a meme. This is a rally like a couple days ago.
Have you seen this meme online? It's a little kid in the park with his dad, and the little munchkin is asking Dad, "What is an income tax for?" And the child is looking heartbroken as the dad explains to him that an income tax form is the opposite of a high school report card. He says, "The better you do, the more you get punished," right? You know,
because I've literally ever seen a fucking meme talking about income tax. That's a fucking thing. Dude is so cringy.
it's the income tax is the fine you pay for the crime of working hard. Well, have you
Oh, so that's not what income tax is. It's not a punishment. It's you're doing well so you can contribute more to the society that provided the services that allowed you to do well. It you can't have a successful business, right? If the roads are bad and poorly maintained because your business can't ship things properly. Or you can't run a good restaurant if the water is spotty and dirty and not properly maintained. You can't run a good tech company if there isn't good education where people can learn computer programming and stuff in school. Can't build buildings if there aren't good trades organizations doing apprenticeships and stuff. You can't run a good hospital if you don't have universities teaching doctors and things. Everyone's success, that's the thing. This is a myth based on, this is a take based on the myth of self-made people who think that they did everything on their own. Enjoy your food. Yeah, the elk stick is really good actually, but it's based on this idea that people make their businesses and succeed on their own, and that we're individualized, siloed entities, but we're not. We're an interconnected social species, and your business can't do well if there's no one to buy your goods and services. There's no roads to ship them on. There's no one helping manufacture them. There's no one getting the stuff you need to make them, the raw resources. Someone making sure that the utilities are running. Elk stick? Yeah. It's meat stick, but it's elk. It's really good. It's like beef, but not really. It's elk. So yeah, Poilievre is just clearly from this like mindset of like every individual, like if you don't get to hoard, being expected to give something back and not being able to just infinitely hoard is violence upon you. Rather than, well, you've gotten more out of the system, you can give more back. Like the person who's living on the street has not been served by the system that as it is, so why would they give back to it? Whereas like someone who's running a business, getting a lot out of the system as it's currently running, should give back to make sure that everyone can do well. Who is the brave soul who fought a goddamn elk? That's a Dark Souls boss. You'd be surprised how much like wild game meat is available in Canada. I've eaten elk, deer, bison, ox, boar. They had boar sticks, venison. I don't think I've had moose yet. I've had kangaroo. That's obviously shipped in. Which is really good, actually. Good meat stick. But Polyev is just such a waste of fucking space. But again, it's like this idea of like, I deserve to be benefited from the system, but I shouldn't have to give back to it. I don't want other people to have the opportunities that I had, right? I win and I'm gonna pull the ladder up with me. I'm not gonna like help people come up to where I am. I'm gonna kick people back into the crab bucket because fuck you, I got mine. Why should I help you? Right? That's not how things should work. And like, as sort of an expression of that, Migrant Workers Alliance for Change just fired a shot across Polyev's bow. Polyev family backed undocumented uncle-in-law's immigration application while launching Trump-like attacks on migrants. Migrant Workers Alliance for Change is responding to last night's explosive story in the Breach media that revealed that Pierre Polyev's relative, the uncle of his wife, Aneta Polyev, lived undocumented in Canada after his asylum claim was rejected and received help from Mrs. Polyev in an undisclosed MP's office in 2021 in his efforts to get permanent residency. Polyev has vilified migrants, blaming them for the housing and affordability crisis, and says he plans to track down and deport undocumented people even though his wife, who is a public figure, heavily involved in his campaign, supported the regularization of her uncle. Why does Polyev think that other families don't deserve the same rights as his own? All families deserve to be together, and every refugee, migrant, and undocumented person should have permanent resident status in order to access equal rights. Yes. Guy sounds like real deuce. He absolutely fucking is. His first ever job is in politics. He's never worked a real job in his fucking life. People talk about how sex work ain't a real job. No. Politician isn't a fucking real job. At least not the way that some people do it. But you can see here like an example of, well, he did well. He got a position of power. He should be able to use his position of power for his own benefit. He shouldn't have to give back to society. He shouldn't think of other people shouldn't get to benefit from the system. Only he should. Politicians is just lying. Yeah, I mean, some are, yeah. But I will say, for some folks, the hypocrisy is the point, right? So there is a quote out there that conservatism is based on the idea that there is an in-group that the law protects but doesn't constrain. So the law serves them but doesn't require anything of them. And an out-group which the law constrains but doesn't protect. So an other there's expectations from the law on how they behave, but they don't get any benefits from that. That is the structure that Polyev is working from. That, like, you know, some people should get benefits from working hard, and that's the rich, and they don't have any responsibilities that come with that success. But the poor, well, you should pay your share and not be welfare queens, right? You shouldn't just benefit off of the services of your society, even the rich people are doing the same thing, literally. It's like, you're working hard, but you need to give something. You have a responsibility because you're suffering, right? And then with this, with the like immigration thing, it's like, okay, well, but those immigrants, mostly people of color, well, but they have responsibilities under the law to do it properly. But we're not going to give you anything for that. Do it properly, but we're probably going to deport you and blame you for everything anyway. Versus him and his family, which is like, well, we can do whatever we want. The law will always make sure we're okay. Society will always make sure we're okay, but we don't have to give anything back. That's literally what conservatism is. And every time they do something hypocritical, they're showing you that they're part of the in-group. The hypocrisy doesn't make them embarrassed. That in-group, out-group dynamic, every time they do something hypocritical, it's them showing everybody else, I'm in the in-group. I have benefits and not responsibilities. I'm not responsible for anything I say. I just get all the benefits from it. Versus, like, those of us who expect consistency, we're clearly the out-group. Because we are constrained by rules. There's expectations on us. But we don't get any benefits from that. Right? So, like, anytime you hear a conservative talk, especially, like, the more controlling-ass fashy ones, keep that in mind. Every time a politician does something really hypocritical, think, oh, the hypocrisy is the point. Don't just stop at, they're hypocritical, what the fuck? Just go, oh, they're hypocritical. They're flashing their power. They're demonstrating their power. They're showing to everyone else, like, I can get away with being a hypocrite because I'm not responsible. You can't be a hypocrite because if you're a hypocrite, then you'll be in trouble. It's literally a demonstration of power. So that's super important to know. I'm just gonna keep on the fucking Polyev train. I'm gonna give like 30 seconds for the ad break to end. So I'm gonna have some meat stick. Meat stick. Elk stick. It's such a dead stick too. Meat stick, meat stick, meat stick. But yeah, so hypocrisy is a flexing of power. Let's look at some more Polyev flexing power. This is in the Montreal Gazette. This came out a couple days ago. Polyev unveils Quebec platform, promises to respect province's autonomy. All right. Important context for the non-Canadians in chat. Quebec, historically speaking, okay, when Canada was being colonized by Europe, there was Upper Canada and Lower Canada. So Upper Canada was up the river, so where Ontario is now. That was colonized by the English. Quebec, or Lower Canada, lower down the river, that was colonized by the French. And they fought constantly over who would get to have Canada. The English won, the French lost. The Indigenous people double lost. Seeing a jar of elk meat in the fridge, just casually sitting there. Yeah. I mean, it's the same as like, it's just like deer, cow. Same thing. But yeah, so, but the French Canadians weren't deported or anything like that. So when Canada became like a whole country, yeah, the Indigenous lose a lot. So when Canada became a whole country, there were concessions made to Quebec to keep the French Canadians from fucking losing their shit and rising up again. So there are certain things in Canadian culture to help Francophones throughout the country, but especially Quebec, keep some of their culture. Another thing to remember is the French are Roman Catholic. The English were Anglican Protestant. So there's like a huge religion difference as well. I know they're both Christians, but trust me, there's a big cultural difference between the two. So there was a lot of concessions made to make sure that the Quebec could protect their minority culture in a majority English country. That's why English and French are both official languages of the country. All federal politicians are kind of expected to speak both French and English. And everything in Quebec is entirely in French. I think New Brunswick is bilingual. Most provinces, everything's in English, or will be in both. There's a huge Francophone community, Northern Ontario, where things are in both, but French comes first. So you'll have street signs that'll say both. It'll be in English and French. But French is, Quebec is really, really, really passionate about protecting their culture from not just, like, because they don't just have to deal with, like, a Canadian context of Canadian majoritarian, like, Anglophone majoritarian pressure on them, but also all of the United States below them as well, that's pushing, like, English language stuff, because all of Canada has had to deal with American kind of cultural colonialism through, like, their TV shows and stuff. It's why we have CanCon, to protect our smaller music industry from our radio stations just being filled with American music all the time, to give our musicians a chance. It's why we have the, like, the quota, and then above that quota, tariffs on dairy to protect our small dairy industry from being completely overrun by American industry. It's not meant to punish the Americans. It's not meant to keep them out of our country entirely. It's just to make sure that we don't have these American mega corporations flooding our country and completely decimating all of our companies. Because we still need work and stuff here. Because you have to also keep in mind that Canada is, as a country physically, is bigger than the entire United States, but it has the population of California. So we're the size of one state, a large state, but one state population-wise, but completely distributed. So a lot of our industry is small family-owned farms. These people have a lot of farmland. We're very, very, very small, and we want to protect our industry without being completely cutting ourselves off from the US, because up until recently, we've had a very, very open, free trade, massive amounts of integration between our military and our cultures and stuff. But because we have this massive country next to us, this mega power with, you know, Hollywood and everything, there's been a constant need for Canadians to sort of assert ourselves and our own culture, as part of why everyone's getting so upset over the 51st state stuff. Because the one uniting thing of Canadian cultural identity is that we're not American. That's what we are, is not American. We love hockey, we love Timmy's less now that it's been bought by Americans. We love hockey, we help each other out of the ditch, we love peacekeeping missions, we love helping others, we love being polite, unless we have road rage in our car, in which case we yell, not out the window, just in our car. Love to own a farm and work on it, no stress from outside, just me and the wheat, yeah! But like, we do have Canadian cultural stuff. We are like really proud of our accent. It's why we do get really annoyed when people make fun of our accent incorrectly. It's one thing if you're like copying the Letterkenny accent and kind of grilling us on our weird accent, that's fine. We don't say a boot. If I say about and a boot next to each other, you can tell that's not the word that I'm saying. We say about. We have vowel raising at the end. We include both the O and the U. Americans don't. Anyway, but like, you know, we have our own culture. We have like the way that Parliament works, because we have a Westminster parliamentary system from our English heritage. The way that we do politics is very different than the US. We don't have year-long campaigns of two parties fucking fighting each other. We have 2 months of people kind of trying to demonstrate why they should win over the other parties, plural. And sometimes we have minority governments. Most of the time we have minority governments, and the party that is holding government has to work with the other parties to get things passed because they have few enough seats, because we have 4 or 5 parties. A boot would be more Scottish than Canadian. Yeah. I do get that sometimes it can sound more like a boot because that sound doesn't exist in other accents. The way that we say about. And we do say like car funny. Like normally I just say car. Because I watch enough American TV and my dad's not rural, so like I didn't grow up with a really thick rural accent, but like the rural Ontario accent is very thick. D-Chin's been making fun of it a lot lately because one of his close friends is from like this area, and so he's been recently making fun. It's made my accent so much worse, where I keep going like talking like this, eh? Like I don't know why. I don't normally talk like this, eh? But like I can put it on because I did grow up surrounded by that. Like I grew up watching Bob and Doug McKenzie, eh? And playing hockey and street hockey especially, and then every once in a while someone would drive up and you'd have to go car and like pull your net out of the road. I don't normally sound like that. Go for a rip, eh? Go down to the Litpo for a Mickey and a twofer. Like I don't normally talk like that. You all know I don't talk like that, but I can slip into it. I do love thick accents. Honestly, I love accents. I think they're really great for demonstrating like unique cultural perspectives in this like really subtle but obvious way. Weirdly, that like it's not like super assertive. It's just sort of this background thing, but it's immediately noticeable that someone's like, oh, there's like something happening there. And then when people have like mixed accents, you're like, oh, there's some really interesting history there for like how your accent sort of shifted over time. So all of that context is important when looking at Quebec, because all of the things that Anglophone Canadians have to deal with asserting our national identity compared to Anglophone Americans, the Quebec have to do as well, and then against us as an Anglophone majority. So they're like a double minority as far as that goes, right? And then there's also the religious minority aspect. So there's sometimes Quebec does things where I'm like, that's Islamophobic kinda, but like I get where that's coming from because it's not out of an intent to be Islamophobic, but more out of a sense of protecting the French Catholic, French language, like that Quebecois culture. So that's going to be important when he says he's respecting the province's autonomy. It's important to keep that in mind because he's not doing anything unique here. Every federal politician talks about respecting Quebec because they have to. And it's more important than protecting the autonomy of every other province. Every other province can be kind of fucked with a little bit, and we'll be annoyed, but we'll put up with it. Like, there's a certain amount of Ontario's just used to, because the federal government is in our province, there's gonna be a little bit of fucking with stuff, especially in Ottawa. We're aware there's a certain amount of like stuff happens that, you know, international stuff just happens in Ontario because the federal government's here. We get that. You know, Alberta is pissy about it, but like they kind of have to get used to the fact that like oil and gas comes from there, so anything that has to do with climate change is going to affect them, and they have to kind of fucking deal with it. BC being a port, they kind of have to deal with stuff. Again, like provinces' autonomy should be respected, but there's also, how you pronounce Ottawa? Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird one. But like, there's a certain amount of being fucked with that every province kind of begrudgingly puts up with. We push back, but begrudgingly puts up with. You really don't push on Quebec much, if at all. That's historically how that goes. And so we're gonna get into the article, and then I'm gonna talk about how like Poilievre's like doing a very stupid thing. So this is Wednesday. He was in Quebec City. A conservative government would respect Quebec's autonomy, protect the French language, and reduce the number of non-permanent residents in the province by half, the party's Quebec platform says. So, this, every federal politician, Ottawa, oh yeah, no, it's Ottawa. It's comes from like the indigenous language, I'm pretty sure. One of them in the area. So this is completely standard. This, not news. Not news at all. Completely not notable. Totally would be expected. Protect the French language. Not notable. Default. What would be expected? I would expect the NDP to say this. I'd expect the Liberals to say this. I'd expect the Conservatives to say this. Everyone should be protecting French language in Quebec. Complete non-issue. That doesn't mean anything. It's important, but it's not important, right? Like, the issue is important, but it's important enough that everyone fucking agrees that it's important, right? So it doesn't mean anything. No one cares. We're like, yeah, obviously, make sure that the Quebecois still have their language. All of that is about respecting them as a minority in the country to be able to have their culture and to not erase them and make them have to conform to the rest of us, right? Totally fair, non-issue. This, notable. This is notable because this is not about respecting Quebec. This is about being anti-immigrant. This has nothing to do with respecting Quebec culture. Because non-permanent residents in the province, okay, non-permanent resident from France. That's not doing anything about the French language, is it? That's not diluting the French language. They speak French. It's different than Quebecois French. Still fucking French. And would be real easy for them to adapt to the slight differences of Quebecois French. Not a big issue. There's also plenty of African countries where people majority speak French. Or like French is their language because of colonialism. That has nothing to do with the rest of this. This is literally just racism. So there is a difference? Yes, Quebecois French and Parisian French are incredibly different. Very, very, very different. In school, weirdly enough, I was taught Parisian French, not Quebecois French. But that's mainly because they're really... Quebecois French is only spoken in Quebec. Whereas Parisian French is spoken all over the world. I would rather have learned Quebecois French though, because I think that's more useful to me as someone who lives in Canada, not in Europe. I would much rather learn Quebecois French. That's part of my country's culture and part of our heritage, and I think it's important to be proud of our entire country, not just the Anglophone parts, and proud, you know, with the understanding of the colonial history. Like, I went over a couple streams ago about fucking how awful John A. Macdonald is, right? I'm not... This is like proud as in like celebrating the diversity of our country. But this is fucked. This went from respecting a minority province, a minority culture, to disrespecting an even smaller minority. So you see how like they connect these things, but they're motivated by white supremacy, not about actually understanding that the point of these two things, the point of these, is to protect a minority. The hypocrisy is in group out group dynamics. It's a display of power. It's also a really clever rhetorical trick to connect these two things to make you think that getting rid of immigrants in Quebec will protect Quebec culture. It's the same thing that the Japanese do, where they're like, oh, well, we can't have immigrants because it'll dilute Japanese culture. And I'm like, no, it won't. No, it won't. That's not how that works. That comes from the same argument that, it's the exact same argument that says that, like, all white Western culture is diluted by having other people of other races around us. No, it doesn't. It enriches our culture. Having Mexicans around didn't change white culture and make us worse. We ruined Mexican food. It's fine. I like white people tacos. But white people tacos are their own fucking thing. Gives me a headache, not because I don't understand, because it's literally fueled by hate. Yeah. Well, and like, less so even hate, right? Because some of these people don't give a fuck. They're not like mad. It's more about power than it is hatred even sometimes. One would argue, what is white culture? So my thing, white culture is the flattening of culture for white people. So like black culture got flattened and then raised up. Like the culture is its own thing. But like black people were stolen, brought over here, separated from their heritage and separated from their actual cultures, to the point where no one black knows where in Africa their family's from. They have no cultural ties to what the religions were there, what the language was like there, what the traditions were like there. They have no idea. They were completely separated from that on purpose. So black folks had to build their own culture of being black because they had nothing else. And they developed a rich, rich American black culture. White culture is not the same, obviously, but like a similar process of separating white people from their heritage, right? So we don't, in America, there's a lot of, okay, you're not Irish, you're not Italian, you're not, like, there is some of that, but a lot of white culture, specifically in suburbs, is about separating you from your individual cultures, like your Ukrainian culture, your Swedish culture. They're all very different. And instead, just this bland American whiteness. And the point of that is just, instead of having your own unique cultures where you have your own unique needs and desires, you can make people one block, one population of white, makes it easier for them to then have white and black fighting each other. So you have this socially constructed understanding of whiteness as your group rather than working class being your group, or which would then have you in allyship with all of the black working class people, which is majority, say almost exclusively. It stops you from finding solidarity with other people or having your own unique culture. So like Christian nationalism doesn't work if there's people connected to their Celtic history or their Norse history or their Roman or their Greek history, right? If you have access to your own historical cultural background, you have your own unique expressions, and it becomes less threatening when someone else also has that. If you're expecting homogenization, that's control. Expecting everyone to be the same and having the same culture, that's homogenization, that's control. One smooth block of nothingness is taking the spices out of the food. Yeah, it's power doing to white people what slavery did to black people, as far as severing their connection to their heritage and their ancestors. Which is why, to me, it's really important to reconnect back to my heritage and celebrate where I came from and identify as Irish diaspora. of British diaspora. I'm of a diasporic movement. I identify with what my cultural heritage is, means that I no longer identify with whiteness, and I don't expect myself to have common interests with what other white people. I understand that I am part of the white group as far as power structures go, but that's not my identity, that's my position. So I can separate myself. If that's the position I'm in, I can get rid of that position without it affecting who I actually am. My heritage would be Dacians and Romans, aka Dacia Romans. Yeah. So like, that's like for me, that's a really important distinction to have. So like, white culture is a creation of like this capitalist control power narrative thing, which is why the like white picket fence and everyone is keeping up with the Joneses, and you all eat the same food, and you all have the same vacuum cleaner, and you all buy fucking Ford automobiles, and you all, you know, you all watch the same TV shows, and it's like this idea that everyone's going to have the same culture that then is threatened by anything outside of it, because it's like, well, the universality and the assumption of universality of a homogenized culture is threatened by someone being different, because part of that cultural identity is dominance and normalcy. To have something else to just show you're not normal, you're just one of many options that are equally normal. You don't get to go like, well, I'm the normal one. It's like, no, you're one of the normal ones. We're all normal. Diversity is how humans are. So like, having otherness be a threat is inherent to how that culture is, right? So setting this up this way is being like, this is a threat to Quebec culture, because we're assuming that they won't be a addition to the culture. They won't be a new flavor. They won't even try to integrate into the existing culture at all, that they're just a threat. And to me, it's really important to remember that people moving to where you are is not a threat to you. People moving where you are is because you already threatened them where they were. People don't move for no reason. They're following work. They're following money. Labor follows jobs. They go where they think they'll have a better life. They're only leaving their culture because you've damaged it in some way. If we didn't fuck with Africa, if we didn't fuck with India, if we didn't fuck with the Middle East, and by we, I mean like the West generally, if England didn't colonize India, we wouldn't be having the fucking situation we're dealing with right now, right? Like, it's important to remember people are moving around to try and have a better life. If you let them have a good life where they are, they're not gonna fucking move. Why would they? Like, Canada's winters are not so magical that people are sitting in the glorious weather and tropical paradise of the Caribbean and going like, you know what I'd love to do is move from my tropical paradise to the land of fucking winter and construction being the only seasons there are, to salt damage on every shoe I've ever owned and the bottoms of all of my pants. No. But do a lot of people move from Jamaica to here? From Trinidad and Tobago to here? Yes. From the Dominican to here? Yes. I've met all sorts of people who have moved here from the Caribbean because the Caribbean has been so economically devastated by Western countries, specifically European colonization and then American colonialism, especially Haiti. Oh my God, America's fucked Haiti over its entire existence because they had the audacity to try and overthrow their slavers, their French slavers. So it's important to remember that immigrants are not a threat. They are a consequence of us threatening them. And this is like a whole rhetorical thing. We are a sentence into this and I've gone on a fucking rant. I want to move to Canada for a better life. Yeah, exactly. And like, if Eastern Europe hadn't been fucked with by Western Europe, post, I want to say at least post World War II, but probably earlier than that. And then you're also getting fucked by Russia the other way, right? Like, if Eastern Europe wasn't treated so poorly and so exploited, you wouldn't need to move. You could happily stay with your own family, your own friends, your own, where your roots are, you could stay there. Like, I don't know any, like, Kat moved here from Ukraine. He didn't do that out because Ukraine was doing well. And just, he wanted to be here for no reason. Like, immigrants come here, refugees come here for a reason. And I don't think punishing people for responding to their circumstances is reasonable. Giving them... Our economy is so stupidly bad, 20 American dollars is almost 100 lei. You know how fucked that is? I kind of do, because, like, the Canadian dollar is not great. It's not that bad, but it's not great. And I've converted things to pesos, because I used to do vacation in Mexico and the Caribbean all the time as a kid. And pesos to even a Canadian dollar is ridiculous. So we used to tip like crazy, because, like, $1 to us is, like, so much to them. It's like, well, just fucking throw it around. I don't care. And that's how rich people should be. They should be like, to me, $20 means very little. To someone who's, like, living in a poorer country, that's like the fucking world to them. Why not give it to them? They need it more than I do. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so, like, we're a sentence in. And this is how heated I'm getting. Because this isn't just, like, just this policy, it's the anti-immigration push through conservatives all over Canada, in the US, them, like, ICE disappearing people into fucking Guantanamo Bay and El Salvador. It's this idea that people from other places are threats because they're not like us. And sometimes being not like us is a good thing. If you're Drake, Kendrick being not like us is good. Because he's better. It's been over 3 months and I need new notebooks, but I can't buy them because expenses are bad and I haven't found a job. Yeah. They not like us? Yeah. So, continuing on. Outlining the platform during a rally in the Quebec City area Wednesday night, leader Pierre Poilievre pledged to adopt responsible federalism while defending Quebec's culture and interests. Quebecers are more conservative than you might think, Poilievre said during the event, held in a packed hotel conference room. Every day they defend their identity with courage and determination. So, this right here is doing a thing here too. This is saying defending your identity with courage is a conservative value. Because he is trying to associate Quebec and the Quebecois defending their identity to be like when evangelical white Christians, Anglophones, protect their culture from queers and people of color. They're trying to say that those are equivalent. That, see, we're both white cultures protecting ourselves from the queers and the people of color. See, that's a conservative thing to do, is to be white and defend your culture. However, defending your identity with courage and determination is also what queer people do. It's Trans Day of Visibility. Literally what Trans Day of Visibility is is defending your identity with courage and determination. It's saying, I will be me and I will be visibly me, even though that has consequences. I will have an X marker on my ID, even if it means I can't go to the United States. Even if that means I get discriminated against. I will be me, fucking regardless. That's courage. That's determination. Being a white supremacist is cowardly. It's saying, I'm so fucking scared that someone speaks a different language than me that I'm gonna freak out and think I'm being genocided because other people exist. Actual courage is being a victim of genocide and defending your right to exist anyway, which Palestinians are dealing with, Uyghurs in China are dealing with, queer people globally are dealing with. Defending one's own identity is not conservative, is fucking right of being a human being. What is this man smoking? Yeah, well, he is trying to connect defending your identity with defending, because his identity is power, right? Whiteness, the white identity is identifying with power. So if you defend your identity when you are white, you are defending power, and defending power is conservative. That's what he's doing. He's saying Quebecers are conservative. Also, he keeps saying Quebecers, which is not wrong, but a choice. You're saying you're going to defer to the Quebecois and you're going to respect their culture and their self-determinism, and you're going to say Quebecers instead of Quebecois. Okay, that's a choice. But you can see he's trying to get Quebecers, he's trying to get the Quebecois to think of themselves as white first, to think of their identity as one to do with power, that you control this province, so you are the majority culture in this province, therefore your identity is power, because it's majority, so it's power. It's trying to have them identify with power, rather than the way they currently think of themselves as a cultural minority nationally. He's trying to recruit them into white nationalism. Which, I mean, good fucking luck with that. Good luck. The Quebecois are not stupid. The one thing they do keep as part of their French cultural heritage is the love of protesting, especially in Montreal. Good fucking luck with that, you conservative piece of shit. So, what he's doing with this is trying to recruit the Quebecois to power and abandon he's basically doing to the Quebecois the project of whiteness, right? He's trying to say, like, don't have solidarity with other minorities, identify with power instead. Don't identify as working class. Don't identify as Irish, as someone who's been through indentured servitude. Don't identify with slaves. Identify with whiteness. Identify with power. And for some that might work. You go like, oh, well, I want to have power. I don't want to be oppressed. So, okay, I'll identify with power, and that means having it. No, identifying with power doesn't mean you have it. It means you get to act like you have it sometimes. It's conditional. Look at the court drawings of Luigi Mangione and see how Italians being white is conditional. Italians weren't white until they were, and until they aren't again. That's conditional. There's a group on the rise that's extremist religion and shit. I hate that. Also military service too. I hate it here. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what they're doing. They're doing the project of whiteness and saying, don't identify with the people of color, don't identify with the minorities, identify with whiteness, identify with power. But the Quebecois are a minority. And them understanding themselves as a minority and having solidarity with other minorities and being like, I understand your struggle trying to hold on to queer culture in a heteronormative majority. That's exactly like trying to hold on to French culture in an Anglophone majority. That's what that is, right? Poilievre did in 2 sentences a lot of white supremacy. And it's all dog whistly, and it's not something I'd expect people to be able to see. This is something that you pull out from seeing it enough times that you're like, oh, I'm starting to recognize like the meaning under the words, right? And that's why like a lot of like liberal and baby leftist policing of language, I get where they're coming from. I used to do that too, but sometimes it's more important, instead of policing the words, the actual words don't matter. It's the meaning under the words that matter. And just like you can change the words without changing the meaning, like instead of saying, like say the R slur, instead of calling someone the R slur, you just go, you're so autistic. Why are you being so autistic? The meaning hasn't changed. You're still derogatorily referring to someone based on the function of their mind. You've just swapped the word. But just like you can swap out words without changing the meaning, you can change the underlying thought without changing the words. You can go from disability being used as a slur to disability just being a neutral term once you change this underlying stuff. Speaking of dog whistles, I had to teach my friend about punk culture and gave him some dog whistles too. Oh. There's definitely some that like my ears perk up because I've been around these enough that I can see danger. The dog whistles are meant to flag to them that they're in the in-group, but some of us in the out-group go, oh, I recognize that. I recognize threats. The threat that power is. I've seen those words come from people who hurt me enough times that I can recognize what's happening there, right? The platform release comes as Poilievre pushes to gain ground in Quebec, hoping to build on the 9 seats the Conservatives hold in the province. Earlier Wednesday, Poilievre had used a campaign stop in Quebec's Chaudière Appalaches region to criticize Liberal leader Mark Carney's French as too weak for him to represent Quebecois as Prime Minister. And it's like, yeah, his French isn't great, but I said it before, there's hate signs around my area and I hate it. Yeah. I mean, I've seen pro-Israel signs around more than I wish I did. I understand why, but it is frustrating. And like, I've seen graffiti that is straight up just like hate speech towards Palestinians, Muslims. I've seen a lot of hate. I did, there was at a bus stop, there was like an anti-trans thing that I took down, but I know that sometimes people hide razors under those, so I pushed it off with my cane. But yeah, him not speaking French well doesn't mean he can't represent the Quebecois though. Keep in mind, I can't speak French at all. I fucking butchered that. I don't know how to say that in French. Chaudière, I can say. Appalaches is just too close to the Appalachian Mountains, so I don't know how to pronounce that in French. But I clearly understand the Quebecois as a minority culture. I understand why they feel the need to protect their culture and respect that. I don't speak a fucking lick of French. And quite honestly, I feel like I personally would rather have an ally that doesn't understand Drag Race, doesn't understand anything about queer culture, doesn't know a fucking thing, doesn't know what this means, doesn't know what fruity means, doesn't know what any of the pride flags are, doesn't get any of that. Doesn't know shit about shit, doesn't know how to speak our language, doesn't know not to say the T slur. Fuck it, I don't care. If they respect that we're a minority and we have the right to love the way we want to, recreate our bodies the way that we want to, then I don't fucking care if he doesn't understand our culture, if he's not a participant in it. And I feel like someone who's tried to be not be an ally, act as an ally to people of culture and people of color in my life. That like, I don't need to know much about or anything about hip hop to respect it as an art form and be like, of course you have your own art form. Of course that's important. I don't need to involve myself in your culture to respect your culture and think that it's important. I don't need to understand AAVE to understand that it's as equal and important a dialect of English as Scots English. They're both important. They're both minority things. I didn't hear it clearly. I'm essentially just saying that, like, I don't need to speak French to be a good ally to the Quebecois. I don't need someone to speak queer to be a good ally to the queer community. They don't need to understand our culture to respect it and support the right for us to have it. I don't need to understand hip hop or black culture to respect that it's important and that black folks deserve to be respected. I don't need to speak AAVE to respect that as a legitimate form of English. It's a English dialect no different than Scots English. It's real English. They're not talking wrong. They have their own dialect. It's a real way of speaking. It's not any more wrong than my Hoser accent is. People don't need to understand my accent to respect that Canadian culture is its own unique thing. And that the Canadians deserve, like, we deserve our own sovereignty and our right to our own culture without being demanded to do things by the fucking president, right? So, like, attacking, like, it's a cheap attack. I know why he's doing it, but I don't think the Quebecois really care. I don't think they're going like, his French is bad, so we won't vote for him. I think they hear him trying really, really hard to speak French and not just defaulting to English, and trying trying to respect their culture. And I would bet you that that's more important than Poilievre condescending to them in fluent French. The party's platform for the province touches on several Quebec-specific issues while also detailing broader conservative promises such as fighting the woke ideology. There it is. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. A conservative government would put an end to the imposition of woke ideology in the federal civil service and in the allocation of federal funds for university research. This is literally what's happening under Doge right now in the United States. That's what that is. So an imposition of woke ideology in the federal civil service means an end to, like, DEI, which, the woke ideology, yeah, which means land acknowledgements for Indigenous folks, is having multi-faith prayer rooms so that Muslims can pray when they need to, that the Indigenous folks can do smudging when they need to, so that the Catholics can also do stuff. It means a return to the Lavender Panic or the Lavender Scare. It means, like, I also don't think that, like, getting rid of DEI or woke ideology, as it were, is a good thing for a minority culture like the Quebecois. Because Lavender Panic, that was basically a thing where, do you know what the Red Scare was? The Red Scare was, like, in the United States and also in Canada, where they were really scared of communists, so they would root out all of the communists or people they thought were communists to, like, kick them out of the government because they thought they were secretly working for Russia during the Cold War. Yeah, it was like, well, you have this political viewpoint, therefore you're a threat to the rest of us, because obviously your allegiances lay with the communists in Russia and not with your own country. So they used to try and find, like, alleged communists, and it would be people who weren't even communists. They were just, like, not rampantly conservative and would get kicked out of public service. So they did the same thing for homosexual people. So instead of the Red Scare, it was the Lavender Scare, where they would go through and try and out all of the queer folk in government and kick them out of government service because of systemic homophobia that saw homosexuals as a threat to society. That we are sexual predators, violent, predators towards women and children especially. One of the things for it was also that like queer people could be more easily blackmailed because we're afraid of being outed. And that if a foreign power found out we were gay and we were in the government, they could blackmail us into doing what the foreign power wanted by threatening to out us. And the solution to that was not making it safer to be homosexual so that being outed as homosexual was no longer a weapon. It was to kick all the gay people out. It was to prove that right, that if you get outed, you will be harmed or lose your job. Because people back then, fucking stupid. People now are also fucking stupid. So that right there would lead to more lavender scare stuff. It would also lead to like, for the allocation of federal funds for university research, that means no more researching gender transition. It would no longer be researching different outcomes for people of color with medication or women to certain medications, because women and POC sometimes react differently than cishet white men, who are the majority of people who are prioritized in research. It would mean no longer researching, say if you were doing a study into, and these are all things that like are being affected in the US right now from the same process, is like, imagine you're doing research on risk factors for youth homelessness. You couldn't include anything about how it's more likely that you will end up on the street if you're queer, if you're a person of color. Queer people especially, because they're more likely to be disowned by their families or abused and end up on the streets. POCs are more likely to end up on the street as kids because they're, like, if their dads or their moms get pulled over by the police and thrown in prison for forever, because the US has a little loophole for slave owning if a private prison does it, like, well, you're gonna end up on the street if you have, like, your dad's in prison and your mom's a single mom raising a couple kids and can't afford it. Maybe as an older sibling, you're like, or like a middle sibling or something, you're like, well, I want to make sure that my youngest sibling has food at home. My mom can only feed one of us. I guess I'll move out early. I'll move out at 16 and live on my own so she only has one kid to worry about. Or, okay, well, mom isn't coping well with dad being gone. I'll take care of my sibling and we'll live on the street together, or we'll live in like a shelter together. Or, oh, well, we found an apartment and then my landlord is predatory and now I'm on the street. Like, a lot of vulnerability compounds itself. But you wouldn't be able to do research on that because you're talking about woke concepts. Both woke in its original use, where it came out of Black culture as a way of talking about awakening to the reality of racism and how it affects everything. And then also in the derogatory new uses, which is like anything vaguely socially aware of power dynamics. Speaking of kicking out, my parents said they'll kick me out of the house if they hear one more gay stuff with me in it. Yay, I hate it here. I'm so fucking sorry. True about ending up on the street because of disownment from parents, and yeah. Like, that's happened to friends of mine. Like, my parents are always been very queer friendly. I have a gay aunt, so that really helped too. But like, if I'd been living with my grandmother and came out as queer, she disowned me when I made a joke about being maybe in a relationship with a friend. So I didn't come out until after she died. Like, I knew before. I waited until she died, and then I think a year after her funeral to make sure everyone had like had their time before having to deal with anything else. I was like, I'm literally waiting. I think I like Yeah, I was like already seeing girls, and I'm like, I'm not coming out as queer until my grandmother's gone. But like, sure as fuck wouldn't have told her I was trans. I still become a squatter and sew stuff on my legs. Yeah, I hope you can get a job and you can move in with some friends and you can get out of that situation. Like, you deserve unconditional love and not the conditional bullshit that your parents are giving you. But yeah, this is full-on Trumpism stuff. In addition to protecting the French language and promoting Quebec's culture, it says that conservatives would not fund the costly and unpopular Quebec City tramway project, but would support a third vehicle bridge over between Quebec City and Lévis, which, if a vehicle bridge was going to fix the problem, you think the first two would fix it. And yeah, tramways are expensive and sometimes unpopular because they take a while to build and you don't get any benefit from it in the short term. But guess what? As someone who lives in fucking Toronto, you know what's great? When they're done. And everyone can use these. Someone like me who can't drive can't use that. So you can see how they're again, they are not like conservatives often do, they are not thinking of the social good. The platform says a Canadian government, a conservative government would also conserve Radio Canada services across the country. Okay. I guess I'm sort of surprised since they super want to defund the CBC. And Radio Canada is often CBC Radio 1 and 2, but okay. And name a Governor General who is fluent in both English and French. Okay. A, the Governor General is mainly a symbolic position anyway. That's not really, doesn't mean anything. Secondly, all right. I mean, it's not so much you name a Governor General as you recommend a Governor General who the now King of England appoints, but okay. Speaking to a crowd of people waving small Quebec flags, Poilievre appealed to Quebec voters throughout the rally. He spoke of how his wife, Aneda, grew up in Pont-au-Tremblay and mentioned such famous Quebecers as Maurice Richard, Georges St-Pierre, and Celine Dion. The rest of Canada has much to learn from Quebec's courage and determination in preserving its culture, identity, and way of life. This is a dog whistle of white supremacy. Quebecers do not... See, now he's making it really obvious. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dolly. I'm gonna have to rely more and more on ASMR comfort videos. So comfort for them, you know how fucked up that is that? For a child feeling like their parents not able to give them what they need. Yeah. I mean, I've survived child abuse too. Mine was less emotional than that. I mean, here and there, but like I get what you mean. Like I at least have a good relationship with my parents now. Specifically my mom, but like I get what you mean, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with that, especially because you're in the midst of it. Like, you do not have to be sorry. You need to, like, you need better than that, and you deserve better than that. And I hope that you get out of that situation, and when you're out of it and somewhere better, things will, I can promise you, as someone who, like, again, I was abused as a kid, moved out when I was 18, that was 16, 17 years ago. Like, it does get better. It really does. Like, once you're on your own and you have control over your own life and you can, like, go from trying to survive to actually thriving, I promise you things get better. Things get so much better once you're out on your own and you have like a support structure that loves and cares about you and is giving you that emotional support that you need. It will, I promise you, it will get better. And you deserve to get there. Yeah, getting somewhere where you can set your own boundaries, have space, and your own people, yeah. Because it's hard to do with parents because they threaten your survival, right? But just like, my only advice would be to like lay low until you can get yourself somewhere better, and then you're gonna bloom like crazy. Like, you're such a wonderful, kind, caring, beautiful person that once you're out of this space that's making everything so hard on you, oh yeah, they don't care. I mean, getting to a space where you can have boundaries, where if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, you can leave. Like, the greatest thing is now that I'm in a healthy place where I have my own place, I have my own relationships. If someone pisses me off, I can just walk away and go home. But I don't want to be here anymore. I have literally, no one can force me to be here. Bye. Sometimes there's work, and that's hard, but like, there's laws and stuff. And like, I'm self-employed, so like, if I don't like a client, I can just tell them to fuck off. But I mean, like, once you're out of that, you'll be able to set your boundaries, you'll bloom. The you that you are going to be in a decade is going to be unrecognizable to the you now. Not because you're gonna massively change into a, like, fundamentally different person, but you are going to go from this tiny little shrub that's just trying to make it through the winter to this beautiful giant ass tree that you're gonna grow into being. And I know it's gonna happen. Because you're awesome. Like, I've only known you, what, for a couple months? And like, you're so incredibly sweet all of the time. All the love to you, friend. But like, I can also say too, because like, Lucy's been through this process too, is living with terrible family and abusive ex. Got out of, on stream a couple of months, I think more on Discord, yeah. But like, Lucy got out of an abusive situation, and once they got on their own and like realized they could, I think the first step for them was realizing they could expect better than the abuse they were getting. It's just being like, oh, people will treat me well, and I can have boundaries. That's a thing I'm allowed to have. Getting out of that space, getting their own space, and the Lucy that I know now is so different than the one I met. Like, super similar to you, Dolly, that like, not in a great space, moved out, has their own space, and now is like in the middle of that blooming process, but is definitely like blooming more than they ever have before. I'm like super proud of them. Like, they're my bestie, I gotta talk them up, but like, they're such a beautiful, kind, caring, amazing human. And like, I've gotten to watch them go through that process, and I'm really excited for when you get to go through that too, and we all get to see you like grow into the like the happiest version of you that you can be. Both because that would be a privilege for us, but also you deserve that. As I'm just munching on little penguin crackers. But yes, back to the article. This bit right here. Actually, I'll look at what Vampy was saying. Quebec does have good policies on standing up, having culture stamp chat, but this take is disgusting. Yeah, it's like the way he's doing it. And this makes it like super obvious what he's doing. Or at least the dog whistle got real goddamn loud. The Quebecois do not tear down their statues, pull down their flag, or hide their identity. They sing their songs, tell their stories, and don't hide who they are. This is a reference to 2020 and the tearing down of statues in the US. Because we had some of that here too, in response. And remember, I think it was maybe a month or two ago, where Poilievre was talking a big game about loving John A. Macdonald. That's what this is about. Because when the US started taking down statues of Confederates after the Black Lives Matter movement and the George Floyd protests here in here in Canada, we were recognizing that cultural movement, and we're trying to confront our own history of colonialism and racism and oppression. Also, it's kind of different when the Quebecois are both colonizers and we're colonized too. Exactly. So like here in, say, Ontario, like we have to deal with the fact that we have statues to John A. Macdonald. And like, he was a horrible person. Horrible person. No matter what Poilievre says, he was a fucking monster. He was notably racist for the time. Hearing George Floyd after a long time in my heart sank that poor man. Yeah, I try and always like keep him in my heart. Both for like him and his memory, and also like all of the other people who've gone through what he went through. My head is just a litany of names right now. But yes, the Quebecois not tearing down their statues. There's a difference between John A. Macdonald, who was a colonizer, racist for even back then, horrible person, and us as who we are now trying to come to terms with that and what that means about our history and our culture and like our complicity in residential schools and stuff, versus say the Quebecois, who, yes, part of Canada and will still have statues to that colonial history of being white Canadians, but they also have Louis Riel and like French revolutionaries who tried to defend them as French Canadians from invasion by the rest of us. So that's a way more complicated thing to deal with. And again, he's conflating Quebec with power rather than as a minority. This is a game that he's playing. This is an association he's making. This is a rhetorical thing that he's doing. And it's important to be aware that that's what he's doing. He's not recognizing that it's different because the Quebecers are a minority. He's going, see, they're allowed to do it, and they're white people. Why can't we do it? Power and power should be holding up power. And it's like, no, they're not power. In their own province, maybe, but in the rest of the country, no, they're fucking not. That's not how that works. On immigration, Poilievre argued the Liberals have ruined Canada's immigration system and said Quebecers are now paying the price for it. He said Quebec schools are lacking teachers and parents can't find spots for their children in daycares. Francization courses are overflowing and the housing crisis is worsening. So, schools lacking teachers and not having daycare. So, he's trying to imply that immigration is causing this problem because there's too many people who need those spaces. However, lacking teachers is because of historical underfunding of education by premiers, by provincial governments. This is happening all over the country, has nothing to do with immigration. In fact, immigration can help solve this problem because teachers from other countries moving here would really fucking help us. Imagine if we had really attractive, well-paying jobs for teachers. Imagine elementary school and high school teachers being paid well. And that's attractive and makes people want to go to school to be a teacher because it's their passion and they know they can survive doing it. People from other countries want to move here and be a teacher because, oh my God, what a good opportunity. The only man I will let have power is Virgil from the DMC. You know, people should not have so much power. Yes. Federals have fuck all to do with this. Yes. But he's trying to say that overpopulation is causing there to be not enough teachers because there's too many students for the number of teachers. That's not what's happening. There's not enough teachers because teachers are quitting because they're being overworked and underpaid. And the overworking is not because there's immigrant kids. We wouldn't have to deal with there being immigrant kids if there were also immigrant teachers. That should balance itself. The problem is caused by something else. It's not immigration because as many teachers would be moving over as children. Not enough nurses because immigrants too? Yes. Legitimately, they'll say that too. Remember, J.D. Vance used to say that like people couldn't go to hospitals in Ohio because there were too many people from Haiti moving in and overflowing the hospitals. Bitch ass, yeah. We do have too much immigration for the scaling we've decided to have? Yes. Yes. The problem is we have to, when we have immigration numbers, when we're like, we are taking on this many people from other countries as a responsibility of the state. When you say you can move here, you're saying we are taking on the responsibility for making sure that you have what you need to move here. Everywhere will have too much immigration in the fairly near future. Yes. Canada especially because we have all the fucking water in the world. All the fresh water is here. So, what you have to do is when you are increasing immigration, you make sure you're increasing all of the services that go with it. So make sure there's housing for them, which means solving the housing problem more broadly. It means making sure there's enough nurses, which means solving the nursing shortage, which has nothing to do with immigrants, by the way. It has to do with underpaying nurses, giving them way too much to do, not giving subsidies to medical school. Didn't know about the freshwater? Yeah, we have almost all of the fresh water in the world. Because we have the Great Lakes, we have a bunch of big lakes all through the north. We have so much fresh water. Those decisions, the powers that we made, yes. And the thing is, what they decided to do, instead of having people come in to immigrate to be doctors, they went, oh, well, your schooling's not equivalent, so you have to go back to school, rather than having an equivalency course, short equivalency course they can take, right? They decided that instead they would force all of these people to be Uber drivers, taxi drivers, work at McDonald's, when they have fucking PhDs and doctorates, rather than helping them to succeed and do well when they're here. We wouldn't have a doctor shortage if the doctors that moved here could be doctors. So much of our problems would be significantly better if our housing situation was not like that. Yes. They will not hire us without Canadian experience, which is bullshit. Just have an equivalency course. Have it be government funded. Be like, hey, as you move over here, we provide a course to make sure that you have equivalent certification for whatever thing. Easy peasy. It's not that hard. It's racist and only technically isn't legal? Yeah. Even with that, they've artificially reduced the amount of doctors we allowed to have? Yes. Canada is richly endowed with water, possessing one of the largest renewable supplies of fresh water in the world. It has access to upwards of 20% of the world's surface fresh water and 7% of the world's renewable water flow. Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of it. More than almost anywhere. And yeah, it's awful, but the problem isn't the immigrants coming here. It's like immigrants that aren't allowed to do the things that they're qualified to do, and wasting time and resources and their lives trying to redo stuff they already just did. It is not that, even if you didn't want to, like, there are definitely schools in other countries that are equivalent to ours. It would not be that hard. Daycares, a lot of that is because like daycares are unregulated and underpaid and such. This is not a problem. I mean, it is, but francization courses overflowing, what that means is, if we assume that to be true, what that means is immigrants are flooding classes to learn how to speak French. That literally means that the immigrants are trying to integrate into Quebecois French culture. That's what that means. We should have more courses for them so they're not overflowing. But that's a good sign. That's a sign that people are trying to be part of the culture they moved into. That's good. That's a good thing. Kind of. It's a good sign. Our immigration system basically only lets in professionals, and when they get here, we tell them they can't do the jobs we let them immigrate to do. Yeah, it's dumb. 100% plus testing, plus catch-up education is not really difficult to make happen. Oh, excuse me, y'all made people have to learn French under threat of deportation. Why are you bitching about it? Yes! Yes! Bruh! Like, and people going to those classes is a good thing. Just give them more classes. It would not be that hard to do, be like, okay, you are an immigrant who's immigrating to do this job that is a regulated profession. Because obviously for some shit, it doesn't fucking matter. Welcome in, E-Chef. But like, you know, it's like doing food service or whatever. Like, no, it doesn't matter. Francization courses have fuck all to do with the rest of education. Correct. And also is clearly showing, equating it with daycares is very funny. Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's equating it also with the housing crisis. It's basically just saying, we have too many people flooding in and overrunning our systems so that real Canadians can't have access to it. It's saying real Canadians can't find teachers. Real Canadians can't send their kids to daycare. Real Canadians can't get housing because the immigrants have taken all of it. But that's not what's happening. Yes, the housing crisis is worsening. It has nothing to do with fucking Omar coming over and also needing a house. That's not why we have a housing crisis. We have a housing crisis because the government, the federal government, stopped making new houses, which we'll get to that, but that's what Carney announced today, is he's doing, or it might have been the other day, but he's announcing, I'm pretty sure it was today, a housing plan where what we used to do in Canada, and I think other countries are currently doing this and or used to do this, post World War II, we had a housing crisis because of the baby boom. Boomers were born. Were too many babies. Too many people needed houses to have their family in because they couldn't live with their parents anymore because they needed to make their own families. There weren't enough houses. It's so transparent at this point, just call me a slur, yeah. But there weren't enough houses. So what did we do post World War II? We had a housing boom. The fucking government built houses as a housing developer. So not having to deal with profit, didn't have to go through like red tape and regulation and stuff because the government doesn't have to approve its own houses. It just goes, yep, I mean, I made it, of course that's fine. Made like preset house designs that were not prefabricated, but pre-approved housing, like house designs, and just went, you know, you want to fucking build this house, go for it. It's automatically approved because it's our design. So people would just build these houses. The wartime houses are all over Toronto still. A lot of them are getting torn down because of modern development, but there are all of these wartime houses still around, especially outside the city. Wartime houses that were built for a family. They were meant to, so you could have like a couple and like 3 to 5 kids, because boomers had a fuck ton of kids. Well, their parents did, had the baby boom, a fuck ton of kids. So you had this housing, and then because the government was making them, it slashed the prices because they didn't have to go through like approval processes and stuff. All of that cost and red tape cost was cut out. Those delays were cut out. All that speculation was cut out. The government's the developer, so they're not doing it for profit for some of the housing they built. They purpose-built themselves. The government built housing, not just other developers, the government themselves built housing. So it massively increased our housing stock, and they kept building houses for a bit, and then in the 90s, it fucking stopped. And then we had a housing crisis because we stopped building houses. We stopped building houses, and instead the government did it, or the private sector did it, and started, instead of building houses at cost, they went, oh, well, we're gonna charge this much and take all of that extra for ourselves. Can you imagine the government doing something not for profit? I mean, that's what healthcare is supposed to be. That's what the public education is supposed to be. That's what public transit is supposed to be. Your fare is supposed to pay for improvements to the TTC. That's what that's supposed to do. But yeah, that's what this is. I swear a lot of these politics forget more than one thing to be true at the same time. Housing crisis can be cost of living and lack of houses, and universities baiting 500,000 students. Yes, also the universities bringing over a bunch of students and then exploiting them is horrific. Yeah. So, like, this is all bullshit. The Quebec nation has always been generous and welcoming to newcomers, but now Quebec is at its breaking point. According to the poll aggregator 338 Canada, the Conservatives are now projected to win 13 of 78 ridings in Quebec, behind the Bloc Québécois at 24 and the Liberals at 40. The NDP is projected to win 1 seat. 42% prefer Carney in a poll. A Lager poll released this week found only 19% of Quebec respondents said Poilievre would make the best prime minister. 42% said they preferred Carney. With polls showing a rebound for the Liberals in early March, the Conservatives had released a French-language ad campaign attempting to explain Poilievre to Quebecers. In the commercials, Poilievre admitted people in the province may find his style too direct or blunt, but argued it's necessary to negotiate with U.S. President Donald Trump. He returned to that theme on Wednesday. Quebecers, I need you on my team. I need Quebec's strength to regain control and defend Canada in the face of Donald Trump's threats. This is a pivot, by the way. He hasn't given a shit about Trump's threats until recently. It's burnt out, the only thing people have bandwidth for is a verb, the noun. Yeah. NDP's drop has been pretty disheartening. As much as I'm glad about not Poilievre. I will say that, but also the NDP they've been super fucking everything up. It's kind of their own fault. That I don't really need to cover. I'm gonna try. I have half an hour before my dad's gonna call me, so I gotta like rip through some of this stuff really quick. Speaking of French, we're gonna cover this real quick. Major right-wing accounts are saying Carney is doing an incantation in an unknown Erie language that is not anything recognizably human. My brother in Christ, that sound you were hearing is French. Others say demonic. What was he saying and why? He's literally just speaking shitty French, by the way. So, calling him a Satanist, like, I mean, that would be great for me, but he's not. If he was a Satanist, he would be, there's a lot more far left things he'd be saying. He's like center right. I don't mind him as far as the moment goes, but like, I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. NDP does need to go back to the drawing board. They need to give us more. And also people are, basically what's happening is strategic voting. It's what's happening. So yeah, this has been infuriating me. He's just speaking French very badly. This article's not letting me read it anymore, which is annoying. Let me see. Okay, I'll read it on the CBC because at least that will be not paywalled. You don't have to watch it on stream. It's another interesting take on what's happening with Canadian housing. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll probably watch that off stream just because I have a very limited amount of time left. Oh yeah, Millennial Moron. I love him. He's great. I follow him on TikTok. Also for everyone, yeah, I appreciate that. So there's a video I want to watch real quick. It's about 20 minutes long. I'm gonna skip part of it because it's in French and I don't fucking get. I don't read French. But this was a conference today.
Good morning. My name is Kyle Matthews.
So this is the last thing I want to watch before I'm gonna raid out.
I'm Executive Director of the Montreal Institute for Global Security. We're very pleased to be
I appreciate
here
that hat.
today to launch a report looking at foreign interference, disinformation, and transnational repression. Canada, over the past few years, has seen increasingly more governments engage in its electoral process to try to switch certain or support certain candidates for other foreign countries' interests. We've seen an increasing rise of authoritarian states collaborate and spread disinformation in our society, both on and offline. And we've also seen an increasing number of authoritarian states engage in transnational repression, including, I would highlight our friend Irwin Cotler, a former Attorney General and Minister of Canada, who's been under 24-hour RCMP protection because of threats to his life by the government of Iran. So,
Yes, I do also want to say, transnational repression, I'm pretty sure is when a foreign government makes, or someone on behalf of a foreign government makes threats to a Canadian citizen in order to get what they want, to benefit themselves. But so this was a conference earlier today from basically election security, like Canadian election security. Montreal Institute for Global Security, and then it was also a report from SITE, which is like the security in something in elections or whatever. Can't remember off the top of my head. But that was earlier today talking about foreign influence. They're going to be referencing the stuff with Poilievre being the federal Conservative Party leadership race being influenced by, I believe, India and China. And Poilievre refusing to get a security clearance and stuff. They're also going to reference some other stuff.
this is a serious issue in Canada. As an open society, as a democracy, we have to realize that there are nefarious actors out there that are taking advantage of our democracy and have interests in splintering society, and they're pursuing different policies that are against the interests of the Canadian government and the will of the Canadian people. So we're very pleased today to launch this report that was done with support of the Canadian government, of Heritage Canada, and I'd like to pass the floor to Wesley Wark, the author of the report.
Thanks, Kyle. I guess the first thing I'll say, and it may sound a little self-interested, but it really isn't meant to be that way. I just would encourage people to read the report. The intention behind the report, we call it a playbook, was really to try and help Canadians who are interested in this issue, and hopefully many are, especially in an election period, to kind of navigate through all the words that have been written and spoken about foreign interference, disinformation, transnational repression, since really the fall of 2022, when this became a sudden matter of interest to the media because of some fairly sensitive.
The U.S. is not the first country brought up because they're bringing up specifically someone who is at imminent risk of death right now. They will bring up the U.S. though.
Leaks of classified information that was then, that began a political media firestorm. Initially focused, of course, on foreign interference conducted by the People's Republic of China. And in particular, I thought what might be of interest really going forward, we've of course had Justice Hoag's final report from the public inquiry into foreign interference, which was issued in January. It looks like a dauntingly large report. It's 7 volumes, it's 800 pages, but the reality is that it's really only one volume, the overview volume, that people, I think, really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, and you also have to remember that we've had active interference from India and China already. India's had Canadian citizens killed
public inquiry, I think,
in Canada.
Really does serve as a kind of capstone to a lot of this discussion that we've been having in public about the implications of foreign interference, threats to Canadian democracy, and in particular the relationship between foreign interference as it impacts on electoral processes and our democratic ways, the links between that and transnational repression. And so I just say a word about that, because there has been, in the aftermath of Justice Hoag's report, there's been some, I think, understandable criticism and controversy around how Justice Hoag handled specifically the issue of transnational repression. She had lots to say, of course, about the challenges of foreign interference writ large. She had some important things to say about future threats, really, posed in the online space through disinformation. But had less to say about how all these things link to transnational repression. And the argument, of course, that she made was that, it wasn't really in her terms of reference to deal with that issue. And I take that argument. But nevertheless, there was an element to her terms of reference which required her to look at the kinds of protections and supports that the federal government can provide to communities who might find themselves targeted by transnational repression in the context of our concern about maintaining democratic processes and having free and fair elections. So some of the report digs into that element, and it may be relevant to this group of speakers in particular. And I think what
also, the U.S. hasn't done this to us yet. They're going to. They're starting.
Over the last many years.
I mean, they kind of have.
Is one kind of fairly stark conclusion, which is that for all the attention paid to transnational repression by the federal government, by government agencies, the message at the end of the day, I think it's fair to say, is that, well, we can provide you with some guidance, we can provide you with some tools, we can provide you with some information, but it's up to you, by you being diaspora communities, it's up to you to really take this information on board and decide how you can best use it.
Yeah, so what he's specifically talking about, the transnational repression, part of the reason they're not talking about the U.S. as of yet is because the U.S. hasn't been able to do this yet. So transnational repression, so foreign interference, Americans have been doing. They've been doing for forever. American funding of far-right conservatives up here, that's been happening forever. Transnational repression is specifically unique to diaspora communities because it's when, like, say, this is going to come up as an example later, but say you've moved here, right, from Ukraine, but you still have family in Ukraine. Imagine if the Ukrainian government, which they wouldn't because we're allies, but imagine they wanted a particular candidate to win. So they threatened your family back in Ukraine and said, we're going to hurt your family unless you vote a specific way. That's not really a risk most Americans have had up until recently, where the Americans have been doing foreign interference through propaganda and funding certain things, but they haven't been doing this specific repression thing of threatening the families of immigrants out of their country into the... Yeah. It's like a very specific thing. China and India do that a lot, where they'll threaten family back home to get people who have moved here to do certain things. Especially the Indian government has attacked people in Canada on Canadian soil. There's been a lot of tension between... Yeah, it's a little bit different than general election interference. And, like, they are going to bring up that the U.S. is now, a potential problem for something like this when they've never been before because they're allies. Our militaries are intertwined. Our governments are intertwined. Why the fuck would they do that? Because Donald Trump's an idiot. But it's specifically this they're talking about. Because diaspora communities need more resources than just, we'll give you some information, figure it out. he's right now saying that that's what the report initially said. And it's like, we need to do more than that. We need to give you more resources to be able to resist stuff like this. Yeah.
If that's an appropriate conclusion, I think it is not the way forward for the federal government and its national security responsibilities and how it exercises them. And towards the conclusion of this report, and I'll really just end on these points, towards the conclusion of this report, I really suggest that there are essentially four things that, broad baskets of reforms that really need to take place. And some of these really just follow on from Justice Hogue's report, and some of them are a little different in terms of their emphasis. One of the strong criticisms, of course, that Justice Hogue had when she looked back at how the government had responded to or understood foreign interference from 2018 on to 2024, so really a 6-year period. One of the strong conclusions she reached was that the government had not been sufficiently transparent with Canadians about the nature of foreign interference threat and how it's manifest, including through transnational repression, and that any future government would have to do much better on that front to tell Canadians in a systematic way about the evolving nature of this threat. So transparency was a big theme of the report, and she basically suggested that one of the reasons that her public inquiry was set up in the first place was just those failures of transparency. So she was really calling for a much stronger effort, and I very much echo that in order to inform Canadians. And that's not just a matter of posting reports on websites. Transparency links to the second point that I would make, which is that there have to be really serious and sustained efforts at engagement between the federal government and its national security and intelligence agencies and affected diaspora communities in particular, who might be seeing, who, as Justice Hogue said, are on the kind of front lines often of foreign interference, might be bearing the brunt of transnational repression in particular. And the current capabilities for engagement, I think, are woefully short of what is needed. It's not an issue that Justice Hogue dived into. I think she had the opportunity to dive into it, but didn't seize it. There were, of course, many issues that confronted her in a very short space of time. But I really do think that there has to be a much stronger effort on the part of some key agencies like the RCMP and CSIS to reach out to diaspora communities, to have those dialogues, to understand those communities, and really to have a purposeful discussion. And that would be one way of helping communities help themselves, and I don't think we can leave them alone to do that. A third point I'd make is that I think what Canadians expect in the face of foreign interference, disinformation campaigns, transnational repression, what Canadians expect is for the government to take action to protect them. And action often means enforcement. It means use of the criminal code, legal sanctions against perpetrators of these kinds of acts. We've seen, in my view, far too little of that. It's a complicated question as to why we've seen too little of that. Lack of resources, lack of capabilities, problems with the existing legislation. I think there's an awareness that this enforcement piece is vital, and an awareness of some of the problems, and it may be that recent legislation that was passed in the summer of 2024, Bill C-70, will help give.
So Bill C-70, just for reference, is this. It's just meant to, update some stuff, so that you can actually enforce and punish people for, acting to the benefit of a foreign entity or terrorist group, doing, violence. When the person who's alleged to committed the offense or the victim has a link to Canada. So, it's really meant to protect people from this specific thing. Yes, it does seem concerning in context of what's happening in the U.S. to be designating someone a terrorist and punishing them. It's specifically supposed to be about election interference. Yes, I do get worried about throwing around the word terrorism because it's used often politically to hurt people, but also it is an actual thing that gets used, and we do have to protect the integrity of our elections.
The tools they need to really prosecute in this space. We just have done far too little. The final thing I would
ACAP,
say
but it's the tool we
is,
have.
and this echoes some reports, some really fine reports that have been written by civil society actors and NGOs.
Yeah, both can be real. Exactly.
I think it really is going to be important in the future to call specific attention to transnational repression and its impacts through government detention, through government reporting, through parliamentary attention. The tendency, I think, if you look back over, the kinds of threat assessments and public statements that have been made by the government over the years, the tendency is to make transnational repression sort of part of a broader problem and almost reduce it to invisibility. So I think that has to change. And in the report, I don't have a sort of magic bullet solution for this, but I think transnational repression
exactly
does have to
fine.
be
It's like systems
highlighted
and
as a
governments,
special
not
threat
people.
to Canadian security and sovereignty, and needs to be treated in a special way, including through some customized, I would say, public reporting to Canadians about that issue. So.
And I do appreciate him taking it to be like, that's important, but that the transparency information, there's like a bunch of levels of things, it's not just about arresting and enforcing laws on people causing this harm, though that is important. We can see not actually enforcing laws against white collar criminals is why what's happening in the US is happening. Like Elon never getting dinged for any of the white collar crime he's committed, and people not actually being sent for prison for election interference and stuff is part of why what's going on in the States is happening, right? So like that is important, but also like giving diaspora communities the information they need and the support that they need, not just telling them that's a problem and be like, then figure it out. It's like, okay, we're going to support you in solving this problem and not force you to do it alone. I think it's important.
I guess my last hope, and this is beamed to all the parliamentary press gallery and to political actors who may be following, my last hope is, of course, that with the many issues facing candidates on the election campaign trail and their parties, it will be important not to forget the significant debate that we've been through, the attention that we've been paying over the last number of years to foreign interference and its manifestations, the ways in which that may even impact on the current election itself, to make sure that this is an issue that Canadians hear from all the political parties about, and is one that should be embedded, I think, in election campaign platforms, which we haven't yet seen. So I'll remain hopeful about that. Kyle, thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. I'd now like to ask my colleague Marie Lamanche from the Montreal Institute for Global Security to take this.
Okay, this is all in French. It's not captioned. I don't understand what she's saying. I'm sure it's important, but I can't understand French. I spent all of this time.
I'd like to invite Mehmet Todi.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning. My name is Mehmet Tohti. I'm the executive director of the Ottawa-based Uyghur Rights Advocacy Project.
So he's Uyghur.
I would like to highlight a couple points. Justice Hogg was nominated by the consent of all political parties in Canada, and at that time, all political parties, including the government ruling party, the promise to implement whatever the recommendations came up by the Justice Hogg. And one of the recommendations in her final report was about to enact a proper mechanism to filter or monitor the nomination process and election. And if we look at the situation right now and the public discussions ongoing right now, and we haven't seen that political parties any effort to implement that recommendation. And some nominations already announced, and we know their deep relationship with troubling organizations and affiliations of foreign or hostile regime in Canada. And their nominations approved by political parties, and they are going to be part of this election. And secondly, diaspora communities still expect on the government to implement some of the recommendations.
I'm just going to make this faster.
Intimidation and
I gotta go soon.
threat targeting diaspora communities still ongoing. and the Chinese government especially still abducting and hostage taking of our family members back home to compel the Canadian citizen in this country to act upon their will, act upon to the favor of the Chinese Communist Party. And that is still ongoing because there is no any adequate protection and insurance offered for the diaspora communities. And for that very important reason, and this is the election season, and we urge all political parties at least read this report and read the final recommendation of the Justice Hogg and read all other reports to address this transnational repression. And the United States, some senators already tabled the Transnational Repression Policy Act, and there is no reason in Canada why we shouldn't do that. And we have to focus on that, and we have to provide that protection for diaspora communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehmet. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Catherine Leung from Hong Kong Watch to take this stage.
Thank you, Kyle. Transnational repression takes many forms. It could be anything from harassing comments online to threatening emails to threats on one's life or even arrest warrants and bounties. And it can be perpetrated by individual actors or a foreign government. What they have in common, however, is that these actions are done to silence an individual for the benefit of a foreign state. This weekend, we saw an example of transnational repression, something that is so unthinkable for an incumbent MP to take part in, that brought into question whether elected officials take seriously the threat of transnational repression.
So what she's talking about specifically is there was a Liberal candidate over the weekend where it came out that he had threatened to send an opponent to China to be detained. He is a former cop, so ACAB. But Carney unfortunately did stand by him and said he apologized to his opponent and he understands it was a mistake, blah, 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 but like was not taken as seriously as it should be.
Foreign interference. To be clear, this is a parliamentarian suggesting to the public at a community event that a political opponent should be taken into custody at the Chinese consulate and handed over to a foreign regime that has shown no mercy for its opposition. This cannot stand in Canada. To effectively counter foreign interference and transnational repression, we need to take a zero-tolerance approach. The government of Canada needs to show, in no uncertain terms, that any acts of foreign interference, whether it be electoral or seeking to harm an individual, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We will detect it, intercept it, and perpetrators will be brought to justice. Regardless of political affiliations, I am sure the news out of this weekend shocked Canadians. The issue of foreign interference and transnational repression cannot be one that divides Canadians along partisan lines. This is an issue not only of human rights, but of national security and sovereignty. If we cannot protect Canadians on Canadian soil from foreign actors seeking to intimidate, silence, or harm, we do not exercise any meaningful sovereignty over our territory. The impacts go far beyond just the individuals that are targeted. When a community sees this, what happens are two things. First, they see that there are consequences to speaking out. That even though they're in a country where freedom of expression is legally protected, an adversarial foreign state can seek to harm them for their speech. Second, when they see that their government is not standing behind the targeted individual, it brings into question whether, if they themselves are targeted, whether they can rely on their elected officials to do the right thing and protect not only them, but our Canadian values of freedom, democracy, and human rights. There's a lot of work to be done on countering transnational repression, and this report comes at a very timely moment. Thank you.
I would just like to conclude the press conference by stating that the report is available on our website, the Montreal Institute for Global Security, migsinstitute.org. You can find it there. I ask you to have a look and to share it on social media. And this is a
So yeah, then they just do Q&A, and they're mostly talking about that dude from over the weekend. They're basically just saying, like, him just apologizing isn't enough. It needs to be taken more seriously. People aren't taking it seriously, etc. I did have more things I wanted to cover, but I do actually have to go. Next stream is next week. I'm not sure when. Sorry, I have to talk to my dad. We have our weekly call and I couldn't do it yesterday. So, but I hope I gave y'all some good information. The thing with foreign interference is just like that report came out, be aware of it, especially those of you who are in diaspora communities. It's like a lot of the foreign interference is more that, like, yes, there is propaganda, there is a lot of other stuff. Be aware of foreign interference. Those of us who aren't in diaspora communities, there's a lot of interference coming out of the US. There have been images going around and accusations of Mark Carney being associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Those are all AI generated images. That's not real. That's all made up. That is foreign influence. So like, through this election period, so like the next 20 days, because the election is, well, 28 days, because the election is 8 days after Easter. So over this next month, be just really, really, really aware of how, if something makes you really, really upset about something talking about a Canadian politician, look it up, see if it's real, double check it, check sources. there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of countries that are interested in our election right now because of how we are taking a massive global stand in opposition to the current Trump administration, who we all know had elements of foreign interference. We know how much he likes to hang out in Russia, and how much he likes to be friends with dictators around the world. Plus Elon Musk fucking just buying shit like Wisconsin Supreme Court elections, apparently. So just know that, like, Canada is really important to the world right now, because of this, like, really firm stance that we're taking, and the fact that we, as well as Mexico and Greenland especially, are standing firm together, in the face of, like, the threats from the United States, that is sort of mobilizing a lot of the world to restructure together, seeing America's closest ally historically moving away from them is restructuring how the world economy works. So a lot of countries, both allies and not, are going to be really interested in this next Canadian election. So please, please, please just pay attention as much as you can to Canadian stuff. I know it's hard. I know the American stuff is exhausting. I've been trying to ignore that as much as possible and focus on Canadian stuff today. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. Trans rights equal P. And I love you all so, so much. We're gonna raid out. I'm sorry to do so abruptly. But I did want to just at least show you all that, like, meeting that happened today, because I think it's really important to be aware of how other countries can influence us. It's exhausting when I was doing my due diligence. Yeah, and I mean, due diligence can mean finding one or two issues that's really important, focusing on those, and leaving other issues to other people, right? We don't all have to cover everything all the time. We are a society. We're a bunch of folks that can work together. We can cover things. We can really deep dive into, like, individual things and then come together and share our expertise together. That's how, communities work, right? So don't feel like you have to do everything yourself. We can rely on each other. Just make sure you're relying on people that you know and that you trust. And then, like, verify stuff when you can, especially around elections, because they can't vote for you. Only you can do that. So yeah, figure out. I recommend strategic voting. I'm an anything but conservative type of being, for obvious reasons. But yeah, keep your ear out for dog whistles. Keep your ears out for interference and misinformation and propaganda. And if you're tired and need to step back, that's totally cool. Always feel free that, like, if there's something that you're like, I don't know if this is real or not, throw it in the Discord, throw it in the political chat in the Discord, and, like, I can take a look at it and see if it, like, meshes with what I know. I can, like, do some deep dive stuff on it and see if I can find out more information. Like, we can always community fund the brain stuff. So yeah, we're gonna raid out. We're gonna raid Salt, because I never get to raid Salt because I normally don't stream on Mondays. So we're gonna raid Salt, and raid message will be you can sub your own Pog emote if you have it. I'm gonna head out, talk to my dad, give Salt some love, and apologize that I have to raid and run because I have to talk to my dad. But I love you all so much, and I will see you next week. I'm not sure what day it'll be. It'll depend, but I will try and let you all know. All right? I love you all so much. Yeah, it is very late for you. Okay, bye. I love you so much. Let me get the raid button. Give me the raid button. Where's the raid button? Trans rights equals P. Trans rights equals P. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. I love y'all so much. I love y'all. Y'all are the best. I'll see you all in a week. Probably Monday or Tuesday. But I will give you all an update when I know. Stay safe. Be loved. I love y'all so much, and I will see y'all soon. Bye, Dolly. Bye, Vamphy. Bye, Cat. Bye, Pint. Bye, Steph, if you're still lurking. Love y'all. Love y'all so much.